Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto learns a forbidden jutsu and travels to his past to fix future part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The sound of battle and the scent of rotting corpse filled the stagnant air within all the ninja villages. The reason for such an outcome was not the fourth ninja war, which had ended 2 years prior, but due to the current head of every ninja village. Close to the end of the war, the greatest betrayal ever possible took place. The Kages, in their weakened state, were assassinated by none other than Danzo, and with this betrayal it was revealed that the war itself was all Danzo's doing. He had used a forbidden jutsu to control Kabuto and the war itself without anyone knowing. Danzo's betrayal led to him taking power of all the hidden villages and him eradicating anyone against him. This led to the destruction of the Hyuga clan. Hayashi was against Danzo and showed it. This of course caused Danzo to issue the assassination of all Hyugas. The only ones left alive were Hinata and Hanabi. The only reason was to have them create a Hyuga line loyal to Danzo. Naruto, the hero of the Fourth Ninja War, was held under many seals and kept underground. He was used for countless experimentation and away from human beings. The murdering of the Hyugas and the capturing of Naruto led to the current bloodshed. Clans began to wonder who was next and formed an alliance to take down Danzo. Months had passed and the battle was still ongoing. Running through the forest were two individuals. Both were dressed from head to toe in white, tattered, blood-splattered garbs. One of them was an obvious female and had long violet hair. Her eyes were void of pupils and of a pale purple color. The other was a male with blonde spiky hair and cerulean eyes. They were moving at breakneck speed, running from an unknown enemy. A kunai whizzed through the air and sliced the girl's leg, causing her to fall, and in the split second it took for the blonde to turn and help her to her feet, they were surrounded. "We can't let you escape, Naruto, Hinata!" shouted the pink-haired girl before them. She was the obvious leader of the group. "Shut up, Sakura!" Naruto snarled, hiding a clearly exhausted Hinata behind him. "I won't forget this." Sakura smirked. Poor Naruto, are you angry because you could do nothing while they fucked poor Hinata silly? She's had twins already, you know. Her innocence is long gone, you couldn't save her. Naruto's hand flew through a series of hand signs, and before anyone could so much as move, everything was black eternal darkness jutsu. Screams shook the air before everything was quiet. The darkness seemed to slip away and revealed the lacerated forms lying in pools of blood around Naruto and Hinata. "Bastard," Sakura hissed, blood leaking from her battered form. "You'll pay for this." Naruto didn't pay her a second glance. He simply grabbed Hinata and hurried through the shrubs. "We'll change this, Hinata. We'll fix this. It wasn't supposed to end like this." Hinata gripped his shirt tightly. "Do you really think the jutsu Kyuchan taught you will work? He said there was a 67% it wouldn't." "Well, let's hope we fall in the 33% that will." They shot through the forest, passed many battles, and stopped at a large waterfall. "Here we are." Hinata Naruto gently let her down, and they both quickly dived into the lake. Below the water's surface was what appeared to be a cave, and they both entered its dark opening. Despite not being able to see, they continued to swim forward, and before long the once dark water began to fill with light, and they could slightly touch the water floor. Finally the water cleared up and they both pooped above its surface, entering an underwater cave. "Hurry, Hinata, I can sense them following us." Hinata gave a slight nod, and they quickly applied chakra to their palms and pulled themselves to stand atop the surface. Without stopping to take a breath, they ran down the cave and into a large room. Its floor contained black ruins, and in its center was a small blue flame. "Begin the ritual, Naruto." Naruto nodded and quickly sliced him palm with the rusted kunai within his possession. Blood gushed, and he went around drawing over the black ruins in his blood. "Stop!" shouted a voice, but Naruto didn't even pause to look up. "I'll hold them off." "Hurry up, Naruto." Naruto flew to the center and sliced each wrist before starting a long series of hand signs. Water style, bloody torrent. Water rushed into the room, slicing through anyone who wasn't quick enough to stick to the roof. An invisible barrier made by the black symbol kept the water from passing its borders. Hinata fell from the roof and landed atop the water. "How can you still fight?" one of the 20 who survived asked in fury. Hinata merely smiled. "You broke my body, but my soul is still intact, and it is with my soul that I fight." Water style, body armor. The water quickly covered her body and seemed to stick. With a smile worthy of a sadistic murderer, Hinata charged forward. The water surrounding her seemed to form whatever weapon she wanted, all while shielding her from attacks. "Hinata, hurry! It's finished!" Naruto shouted from his position below her. The men she had been fighting finally seemed to remember they had two opponents and charged Naruto. Water style, ice blades. A torrent of frozen blades sliced those 7 of the 19 men. "Begin the countdown, Naruto. I'll be there." Naruto nodded and did the last and final hand sign. "Hinata!" he shouted when he saw her pierced by a blade. He left his position and flew to her side, taking out 5 men in a flash. Naruto slipped into a battle stance, ready to take on the remaining men. He didn't care that his only hope was ticking away, but apparently Hinata did. She grabbed his arm and threw him into the circle. Immediately the blue fire surrounded him in a sphere. "No!" he shouted in horror. "Hinata, I couldn't follow you even if I wanted to, Naruto. I couldn't deal with these memories, she whispered softly from her position within the enemy's grasp. Just promise me that you won't take as long to speak to me. I won't, he whispered in anguish. Hinata smiled. Good. A large amount of chakra started to build up around her water explosion. The last thing Naruto saw was the water exploding into a sea of spikes, killing everyone in the room. Naruto felt like he had been hit by Tsunade when she wasn't holding back. The thought brought him a sense of foreboding as he knew that the woman was no longer alive, at least not in the future. Naruto wanted to open his eyes, to confirm that maybe, just maybe, the jutsu had worked. Then again, it could have failed and he might just wake to the dark confines of the cell he had become accustomed to. He didn't want to wake up and be tortured countless times with images of Hinata's battered form, but he had to wake up, he had to face reality. With these thoughts, Naruto opened his eyes and was greeted to the sight of a wooden ceiling. He quickly sat up and shouted in joy when he saw the untidy confines of the apartment he had in the past. Good to see you're awake, Kit. Naruto grinned from ear to ear. Nice to know you made it to Kuruma. He jumped from his bed and sped over to the calendar. A grin tore across his face when he saw the date. He had approximately 2 months before the final exam and he would make it work this time. Oi Kit, remember what we spoke about? Naruto nodded. I have to steal the scroll from Mizuki and I have to get on Team 7. I really wanted to be with Hinata though. Kuruma chuckled. If you make friends with her and improve her skills, then she might just make it onto your team. Naruto nodded. He already had a few events he was definitely change. This time he was going to be smarter. With that thought in mind, Naruto left the house and sped through the streets. The looks of disdain people sent him were pushed aside and he made his way to the one clothing store that ever bothered to sell him anything. Mine! The silver-haired clerk looked up from the small book she was reading and flashed him a smile on Naruto. Have you come to buy the usual orange get-up? She asked as she adjusted her small frames. Nope. I'm changing today. Naruto made sure to put on his usual goofy smile. It was forced and felt unnatural after the years he spent frowning in despair. Finally! My cried in joy. Follow me. Naruto followed behind the woman, occasionally looking at the other occupants of the store. Mai didn't get a lot of customers, but that was mainly due to her having him as a customer. People called her a demon lover and avoided her. In the future she was killed for helping him to escape his prison. He would be forever grateful for her sacrifice. It took an hour for Naruto to get an entirely new closet of clothes and another hour to convince Mai that he would go straight home. It had been a lie, of course, because the second he left he went to one of the many training grounds. A grin tore across his face when he saw Sasuke doing target practice. Yo! He shouted, immediately gaining Sasuke's attention. What do you want, Dobe? Sasuke asked as he momentarily halted in his practice to face the blonde that appeared on the field. Naruto leaned against a tree as he regarded the sky. How about a match? A one-on-one, the winner gets to have the loser do whatever they want. Sasuke gave Naruto a smug look. Bring it on, Dobe. I'll try not to hurt you too much. They both stood in the center of the clearing, Naruto vaguely noting that there were umbu positioned in the trees. Ready, Dobe? Naruto nodded and Sasuke immediately threw 3 shuriken his way. Naruto easily sidestepped them, but Sasuke was expecting this and followed through with an uppercut. Naruto didn't even bother to dodge and simply caught Sasuke's wrist. You didn't think that would work, did you? Your luck run out, Dobe! Sasuke shouted as he pulled his hand free and spun around with a roundhouse kick. Naruto once again caught the strike. This is fast becoming boring. Sasuke cursed and aimed 3 shuriken at the blonde, all of which were deflected. He growled in frustration and flipped backwards. His foot missed Naruto's face by an inch as the blonde stepped back. Sasuke landed in a crouch and prepared to aim a few more projectiles at the once pathetic blonde, but the feel of metal against his neck halted his movement. So what's it going to be, Sasuke? Naruto asked, his once warm blue eyes a cold icy color. Are you going to give up or continue this obvious one-sided battle until the umbu hidden in the trees decide that I'm a threat to the Uchiha heir and restrain me? Sweat rolled down Sasuke's face as he stared at the impassive gaze that was currently Naruto's face. The Dobe had always been easy to read, but at this moment Sasuke couldn't tell what the blonde was thinking. It was obvious the fight was over, and though it would hurt his pride, Sasuke would rather admit defeat to Naruto than to go walk home battered. I admit defeat. Naruto grinned and stepped back. It's good to know you have common sense. Sasuke huffed and turned away. So what's it going to be? Do you want me to dye my hair pink or something? That's not a bad idea, Naruto said with a contemplative look. Immediately Sasuke regretted asking the question, but no, all I want from you is something simple. And what's that? The screws in Naruto's head were already turning when he gave his answer. Friendship. Sasuke looked incredulous and opened his mouth to decline, but Naruto was already making his way off the field. I won the match, Sasuke, so whether you like it or not, you have to comply. Naruto disappeared and Sasuke was left contemplating how Naruto changed so much in the span of 3 hours. Classes had just about finished for the day, so it was truly a wonder as to why the usually weak dumb Naruto transformed into a person who rivaled him in power. Naruto decided that a trip to Ichiraku's was required before he headed home. He would make it quick, unlike his other trips, since he had to begin his physical training. His body needed to be more fit before he was able to do even half of the jutsus he had in his arsenal. Naruto paused in his thoughts to look towards a bush. It was quite obvious by its constant movement that someone was behind it. He took small steps towards the bush and watched as it slowly moved backwards. Naruto stared at the bush for a full minute before launching himself at it. A squeal later and he had Hinata pinned to the ground, started to blush a million shades of red as she tried to stutter out an excuse as to why she was stalking him. "Hinata!" Naruto shouted, pulling the shell-shocked Kunoichi into a tight hug. If possible, Hinata became even darker and Naruto-kun eyes hugging Hinata's brain into overdrive, which caused her body to shut down. Hinata minus shit, she fainted Naruto's side before hefting her up into his arms. His trip to Ichiraku's would be postponed until she was safely at home. This was partly his fault for forgetting that his Hinata had died to send him back. She would become comfortable with him soon though, and he would ensure it. Hayashi Hyuga was more than a little surprised to see his daughter in the arms of the demon retainer. This surprise was of course masked, but the guards that had been guarding the gates showed it blatantly. "What have you done to my daughter?" he asked the blonde boy. The child didn't seem the least bit afraid of Hayashi's cold tone and merely flashed a grin. "Hinata fainted after I hugged her, so I brought her home." Hayashi sighed. He was well aware of his daughter's obsession with the demon retainer. He for one had nothing against the boy and did not find it a problem. After all, the blonde was the heir of the Namikaze title and would bring fame to the Hyugas if Hinata were to marry him. "Follow me," Hayashi said as he entered the Hyuga compound. Whispers followed them as they walked past, most being questions as to why Naruto was there. "Lay her inside and let us go have dinner. I must thank you for caring for my daughter." Naruto would have declined if he didn't know firsthand just how great a chef the Hyuga were. Hinata jolted awake in her bed. She spun around to see that she was in her room and instantly let out a sigh. She had a wonderful dream about Naruto suddenly hugging her. Sadly, she fainted. With a sigh, she stood and changed into a simple black pants and white t-shirt. It was nightfall outside and dinner had begun a few minutes prior. Hinata left the room and greeted everyone as she made her way to the dining room. "I'm sorry I'm late, Father," Hinata whispered as she slid open the door. She looked up and proceeded to freeze in. Hayashi sighed. "Hinata, please sit. I was thanking Uzumaki-san with dinner for escorting you home." Hinata's brain started to shut down, but she willed it to stop. She had to learn to be around Naruto without fainting. With a shaky breath, she seated herself next to Hanabi on the tatami mat. Her sister had been watching the proceedings with an amused glint in her eyes. "Thank you and Naruto-kun," Hinata whispered, her eyes downcast. Naruto grinned. He had forgotten how shy and withdrawn Hinata had been in the past, which would change soon if he had anything to say about it. "You're welcome, Hinata-chan. Well, it's time for me to leave. Thank you for the meal, Hayashi-sama." Hayashi nodded and Naruto gave Hinata a few parting words. "I'll see you tomorrow in class, Hinata." Hinata couldn't hold it. He didn't add chan. Her face took on a dark shade and she proceeded to fall unconscious. Hinata sat quietly in her back seat, waiting patiently for Naruto to appear. He was always late, so it wasn't a surprise that Iruka was taking roll call and Naruto was nowhere to be seen. "Uzumaki, Naruto," Iruka called. No one even bothered to look. Iruka wouldn't have even bothered to call if it wasn't standard protocol. Here the cold voice came from inside the class and everyone looked to see the blonde that had just entered. The class was stunned when they saw the blonde. Hinata quickly held her nose as she tried to stem the nosebleed that was coming on. Naruto was dressed in black pants that ended mid-shin with a black mesh shirt and black ninja boots. Think Minato's boots when he's young. A black cloak with the Uzumaki's red spiral on the back was added to the mix. The sleeves were lined in red, as was the hood. Naruto's hair was also now held back by a red bandana. "Do not drool," Hinata hissed in her mind. Naruto's toned chest was visible to the entire class through his shirt, and Hinata could already see a few girls starting a Naruto fan club. "And Naruto?" Iruka stuttered in shock. "Hi, Iruka-sensei?" Naruto asked. Iruka blinked and nothing. "Just find a seat." Hinata watched as Naruto walked up the aisle. It was obvious he would take the seat next to Sakura. The pinkette was sitting next to Sasuke, and though Naruto seemed to have a rivalry with Sasuke, she knew he would choose the seat if only to be next to Sakura. To everyone's surprise, Naruto waltzed right by Sakura, not even sparing her a glance, and took the seat next to Hinata. Not one person in the class was oblivious to the fact that Hinata was having a hard time breathing. They all knew about the girl's crush on Naruto. Iruka cleared his throat to get back the class's attention, since as everyone is here, let's begin taijutsu practice. Follow me to the training area. Slowly the class poured out and Naruto focused his attention on Hinata. "So Hinata, want to be friends?" The girl blinked. Was she in some kind of dream? Naruto suddenly noticed she existed. Hinata stared into his sincere eyes and nodded. "Hi." And Naruto smiled, and Hinata found that his smile as very contagious. "Okay, so the aim of today's practice is to either stay in the ring for 3 minutes, or to knock your opponent out before they knock you out, understood?" Everyone nodded and proceeded to sit in the stands. In the center of the large room was a painted circle. It wasn't big, which would make it difficult not to accidentally fall out. Iruka took out a book and scanned the names before calling to. Naruto and Hinata were barely listening. Instead, they were talking about going to Ichiraku's later and maybe training in a free training ground. Uzumaki, Naruto, and Inuzuka Kiba. Naruto stood. "I'll be back in a flash, Hinata." She nodded and gave him an encouraging smile. He seemed confident, but she was worried all the same. Kiba was one of the best at taijutsu, and Naruto had never shown any proficiency in the art. Hinata had her fingers crossed as she watched them bow to each other. "Begin." It was over before it even started. Naruto had moved so fast that Hinata wouldn't have seen him if she hadn't had the sense to turn on her Byakugan. The blonde had done a simple roundhouse kick that sent Kiba flying from the ring and into the faraway wall. Hinata was in awe. There was one thing she had noticed: Naruto's entire being seemed to change the second he moved from her side. His eyes became cold, and the aura he exuded screamed, "Don't fuck with this." Hinata felt giddy with happiness when she realized Naruto was being nice only to her and maybe Iruka. He hadn't been cold to Iruka either. Naruto didn't wait on Iruka to pronounce him the winner and went back to his seat. The second he saw Hinata's face, a smile washed away the coldness in his face. "How was it, Hinata?" he asked the blushing girl. "I never knew you were that good, Naruto," Hinata answered in all honesty. She didn't even seem to notice she didn't stutter. "I do a lot of things well, Hinata," Naruto answered in a low tone that had Hinata's mind drifting to not-so-clean thoughts. Hyuga, Hinata, and Yamanaka Ino. Hinata felt her blood run cold. She was not very good in taijutsu, and though Ino was not good either, she was still better than Hinata, especially with Hinata's low confidence. "Don't worry, Hinata. Just relax and do your best. I know you can do it." Naruto's words were comforting, and Hinata found herself calming down as she entered the ring. She wanted to be like Naruto, strong, confident Naruto. "Begin." Ino charged with a fist. Hinata barely dodged by jumping to the right, but Ino followed through with a roundhouse kick that sent her sliding across the floor and slightly out the ring. "Winner Ino Yamanaka." Hinata slowly rose to her feet, tears coming to her eyes. She was pathetic. At home she could barely beat Hanabi, her little sister, and though her father said nothing, Hinata was more than aware of the disappointment in his eyes. Hanabi would try to help by giving Hinata a few pointers in the night, but it did nothing to increase Hinata's capability. She slowly returned to her seat and didn't bother to look, much less speak to Naruto for the rest of the day. He tried adamantly, but she was too ashamed of herself. Naruto deserved better friends than her. It was at the end of class when everyone was gone and Hinata was slowly taking her time to pack up that Naruto got fed up. He grabbed her shoulders and gave her a firm shake, fury in his eyes. "So you lost, so what? If you're always so negative, you'll never improve. Do you think I got to this point by sitting around all day crying about all my losses? Do you?" Tears flowed freely from her eyes and Naruto began to feel guilty for shouting, "I never win. I can't do anything. Daddy's disappointed and probably won't even pass the exams, minus you should get better friends than me." She was sobbing now, and Naruto was the support keeping her on her feet. "I'm sorry for shouting," he whispered, pulling her into a soft hug. "I'll help you, Hinata. We'll become stronger, better, and you'll make everyone proud." "I can't." Naruto helped her tighter. "Never say those words. I know what you're capable of, Hinata. You can do it." He pulled away and wiped away her tears. "Let's go to Ichiraku's to cheer you up, then we'll head to the training field like planned. Sasuke's waiting for us outside. I asked him to come too." Hinata looked surprised. "You, Uchiha-san spoke to you?" Naruto grinned. "Let's just say we're currently on speaking terms. Come on, let's get better together." A large smile spread across Hinata's face. She could do it. She would make it because she had Naruto, and now Sasuke by her side. Sasuke lay in a tree watching the proceedings below him with an incredulous stare. "Dobe, what's the point to Hinata dancing?" Sasuke asked. It had been a week since they formed this rocky truce and began to train together. Ever since then, Naruto had Hinata dancing while she trained. Naruto rolled his eyes. "Because it helps with her flexibility, you idiot. Isn't she already flexible?" Naruto stopped throwing projectiles at Hinata and faced Sasuke. "The Hyuga style has to do with flexibility, but it also restricts movement. If Hinata can incorporate these fluid movements in her Hyuga style, then I can assure you that she will become stronger." Naruto gave him a look that said, "Do you have anything else you would like me to shoot down?" When Sasuke said nothing, he went back to throwing kunais at Hinata. "Shouldn't you be meditating to unlock your Sharingan instead of watching us?" Sasuke scoffed and went back to meditating, no doubt wondering when he started taking orders from Naruto. "Hinata, stay on your toe tips when you spin and remember to flow through the attacks. Stop thinking about what I'm going to do next and simply move with the attacks." This continued for another half an hour before Naruto decided on a break, and they all headed to Ichiraku's. "Naruto, I found a few more scrolls." Sasuke yawned as they waited on the ramen to be served. "They have a few more advanced chakra control methods that we could use." Naruto nodded, putting away that conversation at the back of his mind when his bowl appeared. "Thanks, old man." He immediately dug in, more than aware of his two friends watching him flash through 3 bowls. "And nay, Naruto, don't you think you should see you before you swallow?" Hinata asked in worry, as she slowly sipping her shrimp ramen. Naruto grinned. "Don't worry, Hinata, my body's used to it." "So Sasuke, is Sakura keeping you warm in class?" A grimace took over Sasuke's face. Ever since Naruto took a seat next to Hinata, Sakura had made it her eternal duty to sit next to him every day, and annoy the hell out of him. "I'm going to start sitting with you guys." This morning she tried to slip her hand into mine. I swear to God it felt like slime. All was quiet for a few seconds before Naruto and Hinata exploded in laughter. Hinata, being the polite one, tried to suppress her laugh while Naruto was almost choking on his food. They drew a lot of attention and there were a few people who were whispering profanities about the demon child and his minions. Luckily, at least in Naruto's case, Hinata and Sasuke didn't catch them. At this moment Naruto didn't feel up to explaining what exactly was inside him. "Hinata-sama." All three turned to see a panting member of the Hyuga's Zolokuen. Hinata asked in confusion. She stood from her seat and was quickly at the man's sides. "What is it?" she asked, resting a hand on his shoulder. The question seemed to snap Zolo back into commission. "Hinata-sama, you're late for your practice match with Hikari-sama." Hinata gasped, Her eyes instantly flashed to the now pink sky. Oh no, and Naruto, Sasuke, I have to leave. See you tomorrow. Both boys watched the Hyuga branch member lift Hinata and speed off. Naruto wasn't all that surprised. He was aware of the many matches Hinata had against fellow main house members to prove her worth. It was only because of Hayashi's influence that she hadn't been discarded from the family for not ever winning one. Naruto smirked. They were in for a rude awakening if they thought Hinata was going to sit down and be beaten this time. Let's get back to practice, Sasuke. Hinata was well aware of the glares that followed as she walked to the center of the Hyuga training ground. The area was not of any branch members, which was probably why she felt like she was being boiled alive by the stares. Hayashi stood to the side with the Hyuga council members. He did not look angry like the others. Beside him stood Hanabi, who was constantly fidgeting from foot to foot as her gaze switched between Hinata and Hikari. After all, Hikari was not known for holding back when it came unto Hinata. Speaking of Hikari, there she stood in all her arrogant Hyuga glory. The girl was 3 years Hinata's senior. Her hair was chopped off at her neck with small butterfly ornaments keeping her bangs swept to the right side of her face. This of course led to the obscuring of her right eyes. She was dressed in a red half kimono that ended at her thigh with a white obi and knee-length white pants. The Hyuga crest could be found on the back of her kimono, and she wore her hitite on her wrist, though it could be barely seen due to the long sleeves of the kimono. Hikari had never been one for tradition and hated that most of the Hyugas looked alike. This was probably why she wore such clothing. Hinata felt her eye twitch when she noticed Hikari was wearing her steel-toed ninja boots. Hikari only wore them when she went on missions, but of course, since this was Hikari, she was talking about, the girl classified Hinata's humiliation as a mission. One of the councilmen stepped to the center of the field. Keep the physical damage to a minimum. Hinata almost scoffed at this. The councilman had a whole other meaning for physical damage when it came unto her. She still didn't understand why so many main branch members had to be in attendance to ascertain her skills. 1 or 2 was enough. The man stepped back and they both slipped into the Hyuga stance. Begin. Almost immediately Hikari showered her with projectiles. Hinata didn't find it hard to dance through them all. It was the same as her training with Naruto. Of course, everyone was surprised at her fast and graceful movements. Usually she would have taken most of the hits. She suddenly felt a presence behind her and spun around, pulling out a kunai. There was a clashing sound as it came in contact with the one Hikari held. Oh? So you've gotten better, have you, runt? Hinata grimaced as Hikari whispered the words in her ear. She hated the way Hikari's voice seemed to flow with the air. The girl was already pretty. Why was she also blessed with a beautiful voice? Hikari was stronger than her, so Hinata was forced to jump away. She did a simple flip in midair and sent a few kunais at her. Ha! Pathetic. Hinata said nothing to the jibe because the second her toes touched the ground she applied chakra and was back in the girl's face. Hikari dodged Hinata's palm thrust with ease and was easily pushing her back. This pissed Hinata off to insane levels. Naruto would be disappointed if he saw her now. She dodged the palm Hikari aimed for her heart, and grabbed the girl's wrist, wasting so time as she used the girl's arm as a support to leap over Hikari's body. The second her feet touched the ground, she spun around as quickly as she could and closed 5 chakra points. Hikari hissed and practically went berserk as she switched on her Byakugan and sent a barrage of attacks at Hinata. Hinata, of course, was not to be deterred. Hikari might be fast, but Naruto was way faster, and during the small amount of time they had been training together, he had never adjusted his speed. These attacks were like snails to Hinata as she danced around Hikari. Each attack Hinata dodged resulted in a chakra point being closed somewhere on Hikari's body. Finally, she decided to end the show and grabbed both of Hikari's arms. She applied chakra to her feet and sent a firm kick to Hikari's defenseless chest. The sound of bones breaking and dislocating rang through the air, and Hikari's body fell to the floor in a convulsing lump. Everyone gasped in shock as they watched the Chunin scream for her parents, her dislocated shoulders serving very little purpose to ease the pain caused by her 4 cracked ribs. Everyone was shell-shocked, all except for one little Hyuga who ran into her sister's arms. Amazing. How did you do that? Hinata smiled. It was rather simple, really. Hikari had underestimated her, and that had been her downfall. Hikari might have been a Chunin, but Hinata was more than aware to the fact that Hikari's parents had paid for her opponents to be weak. Hinata looked over at her father, and was filled with joy when she saw his small smile of approval. Hayashi was not one for emotions, none of the Hyugas were, and even Hanabi was usually like that. Hinata had been the exception, and wore her emotions on her sleeve. This was probably why they disapproved of her as the heir. With newfound joy, Hinata smiled. She had finally made her father proud. Naruto stood atop one of the Hyuga households watching as Hinata celebrated with her sister for her first victory. He was proud of her. The void mask he wore as he looked towards the sky would have scared anyone who knew Naruto as a fun-looking fool. Naruto, we have business to take care of. I know. He watched for a few more seconds before disappearing in a flash when Hayashi looked his way. Hiruzen Sarutobi was more than a little afraid when Iruka told him of Naruto's new personality and skills. The first thing that had run through his mind was that the Kyuubi might have taken control of the boy. The fact that Iruka had taken so long before he came forward with the information was lost on him as he tried to see Naruto's whereabouts in his crystal ball. Naruto appeared on screen having a spar with Sasuke, but the second Hiruzen focused on Naruto, the fighting halted, and to his utter horror Naruto seemed to look directly at him before the image promptly fizzled. Iruka Hiruzen said in a serious tone, "Hi Hokage-sama? Get me Kakashi Hatake and my niece Mizuni." Sasuke sent fist after fist and kick after kick at the defenseless training dummy in the Uchiha training grounds. He didn't see the point to these things if all they did was stand there and take the hits. It didn't help with his evasion skills at all. It was for this reason that he went to the training sessions with Naruto and Hinata. They helped each other out, and as a team they made up for each other's weakness. He couldn't actually say he didn't think Naruto was an idiot. It was a habit, and he refused to break out of it. Hinata on the other has a personality that makes you want to protect her. He was beginning to see her like the little sister he never had. With one last chakra-powered kick that took off the dummy's head, he left the grounds. He was starting to see the fruits of his training. He had not been able to focus chakra in one place before because of the control it took, but with Naruto's prompting, both him and Hinata had looked for various ways to focus chakra. So far they had gotten through the tree walking, and currently they would spend a few hours doing Hinata's chakra control training that involved keeping a pebble stuck to one section of their body. It was hard because the size of the pebble meant they had less surface area to use and therefore had to focus harder. Naruto unsurprisingly had gotten the hang of it in a flash, and could already balance stones all over his body. Chakra control had not been the only thing they worked on. They also practiced footwork and played various games where stealth was the key to winning. Naruto had also painted seals on each wrist and shin of Sasuke and Hinata that had promptly disappeared after their completion. When he revealed that they were actually weight seals and proceeded to turn them on, Sasuke had become positively sure that Naruto was Konoha's unsung prodigy. Sasuke loathed the attention he got due to him being the last surviving Uchiha in Konoha. It pissed him off to insane levels to get everything in the palm of his hand when everything had been so easily snatched away from him. He would have his revenge on his brother for what he had done, but to do so he needed power, and so far Naruto was proving to be the only one able to provide it. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't so bad having the Dobe as a friend. Naruto entered his room and quickly switched his clothing to one suited for what he was about to do. He pulled on a black pants and a simple gray sleeveless shirt with an open black umbu vest. He wore black gloves that ended at a little below his shoulder with black metal arm bracers. The bracers had the kanji for death carved into one and the kanji for fox carved into the other. He wore steel-toed shoes that made absolutely no sound despite the metal underneath it. There were no weapons visible on him, but that was most likely due to the many invisible storage seals he had tattooed into his body. "Haha. We're ready for them this time, Kit." Kuruma barked in laughter. "Let's end them now." Naruto sighed. "We can't do that, Kuruma. I want them to suffer before I finally end them, and there is nothing Danzo hates more than not having his way." Kuruma chuckled. "Too true, Reaper." Naruto grinned when Kuruma said his new alias and pulled on a half-face mask much like Kakashi's that had red marks on his cheeks to mirror his whiskers. Over this he put on a white porcelain face mask. It had long black lines on one side of the mask with a black film to block the eyes. Long straight black hair was sprouting from the back of it, hiding his usual blonde hair. Usually Naruto would not have been able to get any of these materials, and Mai's store had only provided half of his clothing. The rest was arrived at by a very convincing transformation jutsu. Off to the side of the room was the new closet he bought. That one was packed with the weapons he had spent all week buying. He did a quick transformation jutsu and left his house. He stayed away from the civilians, and quickly made his way to Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death. He easily bypassed the fence and disappeared within the shrubs. Once he was away from the crowd, he displaced the jutsu and took off. He ran for a full 20 minutes before he halted in a small clearing. To everyone but him, the clearing was nothing other than a clearing, but Naruto's sharp eyes saw the small indent in the ground. He knelt to the floor and placed one of the many paper seals he had in his vest on the ground. The seal glowed a light blue, and seconds later the dirt disappeared to reveal a steel hatch. Naruto wasted no time and quickly opened it up and disappeared below. The minute the hatch closed, the seal above ground glowed and the hatch was once more hidden. He landed silently despite his shoes being plated in metal. Seems like it was abandoned until the war, he mused as he walked down the large dirt tunnel. It was dark, but due to Kuruma enhancing his eyes it was a simple matter to see through this. "You should just destroy it." Kuruma growled. "If you destroy this stronghold then it would hinder Danzo." Naruto shook his head as he entered a large area with more tunnels leading in different direction. "That would be stupid, Kuruma. This route headquarters was abandoned long ago when the Chunin exams started to be held here. Danzo used it as that hellhole of a prison in the future, but it stayed empty until then. He went down a tunnel to his right, so until he decides to use this little headquarters it will be our base of operations." "Will you tell Hinata and Sasuke? When we graduate as genin I won't be able to gain allies until I become a genin and start missions. Hopefully we'll be on the same team, but knowing Hiruzen he'll want to recreate the Sannin just like before and pit me with Sasuke and Sakura." The fox chuckled. "What do you do if that happens?" "I'll have Hinata gain allies when she goes on missions. She's the same Hinata as the one in the future, which means that with a bit of training she'll be very convincing. Of course Sasuke and I will do the same. So you'll be fine without Hinata on your team." Naruto scoffed. "Of course not. which is why Sasuke and I will make as much problems as we can with Sakura until Hiruzen sees the error of his ways and places Hinata on our team. I hope we won't have to go through all that, but Hiruzen is a peace-loving delusional fool. The day I found out he was the cause of Orochimaru was the day I lost all faith in him. Naruto came to a halt before a rusty steel door that he easily kicked open. He stepped inside and looked around. A sick grin tore across his face as his eyes danced over the many cages and grills. Chains hung from various parts of the walls that were no doubt used to hold people in place. The room was the largest in the underground catacomb, and was also the creepiest. Peace can only come by bloodshed. You taught me that, Danzo, Naruto whispered with a sick chuckle, and I'm going to follow your advice. He brushed his finger across his wrist and removed a kunai from the seal. He then walked to the largest cage in the room and proceeded to carve Danzo in its nameplate. I'm going to return all the pain you gave me with interest. A dark laugh tore from his lips, echoing throughout the empty catacomb that would in time be filled with individuals who could rival Danzo's root and power. Naruto was not at all surprised when merely a day after stopping Sarutobi's spy network he was being trailed by Kakashi, and someone else he didn't give a damn about. He had to halt training sessions with Hinata and Sasuke because of this. He didn't want them to be trailed too. Of course, Sasuke had been a bit skeptic about his sudden flu, but Hinata had practically stuttered a storm in fret. It wasn't hard to actually fake a fever, and he easily got a week off from school. He stayed home for most of it until he decided to visit Sarutobi. The trailing was getting annoying, and he had made a decision on what route to take with the old man. It wasn't hard to slip out of Kakashi's line of vision. A swift henge was all it took. "Hey, old man," he said with a grin as he entered. Luckily, the secretary was taking a small nap, so he was saved the headache. Sarutobi stiffened. It might not have been obvious, but Naruto, being from 10 years in the future, had honed his eyesight. "Ah, Naruto, what do I owe the visit?" Naruto's smile fell and the cold mask he was so accustomed to fell in place. "Let's skip to the chase, Hiruzen. You have Kakashi and some unimportant fool trailing me. It's annoying." "Are you sure about this?" Naruto Kurama asked as Sarutobi began to rise. "By doing this I can prevent annoying things from happening. Plus I'm only showing him bits and pieces. Are you ready?" "Anytime, Kit." Naruto flashed before Sarutobi and quickly placed his index finger to the man's head. Sarutobi immediately froze as his eyes began to roll back, and Naruto closed his eyes in concentration as he sent clips of the war, death and carnage of the future. The last thing he sent was the battle he and Hinata had in the cave before he was transported to the future. He stepped back and allowed Sarutobi to collect himself. "Why, you fro from the future," the man managed to wheeze while keeping a strong hold on the desk. "Yes, and I want to prevent what you saw from happening. You're either on my side or Danzo's. Hiruzen, I suggest you choose quickly." And with that, Naruto disappeared. Hinata vs. Ino. Hinata frowned as she walked from the stands and into the small circle she had come accustomed to losing in. At the moment she was more than pissed at the arrogant smirk Ino wore as she stood opposite her. "Are you scared, Hinata?" Ino asked with a loud bark of a laugh. Hinata's frown got larger. She had no time for this. Naruto was dying in that shabby apartment he called a house, and she couldn't visit all week because she had practice with her father. She would not be able to go to Naruto's training sessions as regularly as before because of this, and she really wanted to tell him. Ino was just getting on her nerves. Begin. Irika's voice boomed. Naruto's sickness, her father's hard training, and the fact that she had to put up with Sasuke's jealous fangirls without Naruto there to keep them away prompted her to swiftly end the fight and go back to sulking. She sidestepped Ino's kick, grabbed the blonde's hoisted leg, and with a slight tug had the blonde falling outside the circle. "Winner, Hinata!" She didn't stick around for Ino's rant on injustice, and instead made her way to her seat. "Are you alright, Hyuga-san?" She jumped in shock and spun on the bench to see Shino behind her. She sighed and gave a small smile. Shino was not a person of many words, and before Naruto began to notice her he would occasionally give her small encouragements. "I'm fine, Shino, and I told you to call me Hinata." He nodded and went back to watching the spars. It wasn't until Shino was called down for his spar did Hinata lose the feeling of being stared at, and instead of feeling freaked out she felt reassured. She had more persons who cared about her than she thought. "Naruto!" The blonde rolled his eyes as he watched the fuming Pinkette make her way over to him. He was looking forward to seeing Hinata, but of course the first face he sees was someone he carried a strong hatred for from the future. "Lying bitch." "What?" His words could cut through steel. Any sane person could see that he was not in a good mood, but of course Sakura was no sane person. She jammed a finger in his face. "Because you've been gone for a week, my Sasuke-kun had to fight twice as many people. Also, I would love for you to keep your little girlfriend on her leash and away from my Sasuke-kun." He seriously wanted to break her finger, but alas, he was in class. His sweet Hinata was watching, and since he was now tracking free, he refused to do something that would cause Sarutobi to put him under watchful eyes again. Irika entered the class and told them to find their seats. Naruto ensured to give her a pointed glare before pushing past her, but of course Sakura wouldn't let it end like that. She just had to shorten her lifespan. "Yeah. Go off to your whore!" she screamed, causing the entire class to freeze and stare at her like she was mad. Naruto's stare, on the other hand, was borderline crazed. "That's what my mom says all Hyugas are. Whores. And I bet that in the future she's gonna sleep with 100 men and have kids that aren't even yours." Naruto knew that Sakura was just sprouting something to piss him off, but the fact that it was so close to the truth had his self-restraint shatter. A murderous aura seeped into the class and everyone felt the hair on their skin stand up. "I'm going to kill you," Naruto hissed, his voice laced in venom. A kunai was already in his hand, and due to his close proximity to the pinkette, not even Iruka would reach in time to save her life. Luckily, Hinata knew that something bad was going to happen and had already started to make her way towards Naruto, so she had swiftly caught his wrist. "Naruto, why you need to stop?" she cried into his ears. She had to use both her hands to hold him back. "Please, I'm fine." Those words snapped him from his murdering thoughts, and he slowly lowered his hand. Sakura fell on her butt, terror in her eyes. She almost died. "My mother's going to learn about this," she screamed. "Yes, she is," Sakura Iruka said as he walked up. He spared a glance at Naruto, who was slowly being led to his seat by Hinata. "She'll learn about everything, especially the part about you belittling a Hyuga, and I'll ensure that Hayashi-sama is there as well. Now get to your seat." The terror that was in Sakura's eyes seemed to increase tenfold when Iruka finished talking and she hurried to her seat behind Sasuke. "And Naruto?" Hinata whispered softly, placing her hands over his fisted ones. "You need to calm down." His hands opened swiftly and held hers. You're fine, he whispered the words so softly she almost didn't hear them. She had no idea what they meant, so she dismissed the words and instead gave him comfort through holding his hand. During break he completely disappeared and came back half an hour late with a few slits in his shirt. It made her worry, but she kept that to herself. At least he looked calmer. By the end of the day she was not looking forward to telling the blonde she would not be able to make practice for a while. Almost everyone had left the class by the time she gained enough courage to speak to him. "Ito, Naruto?" The blonde ceased in packing away his things. "Hi, Hinata?" He didn't even look up. Was today not look at Hinata day, she wondered, because that was all Naruto had done since the incident that morning. "I won't be coming to practice for a while." For the first time since the morning, Naruto looked at her eye. "It's not because of this morning, right, Hinata?" He looked distraught, and Hinata felt more than a little elated that he cared so much about her. Of course she didn't visibly show this. "Of course not, it's because she's finally decided to go on a date with me." Her head snapped in the direction of the voice, and she saw the smug face of Kiba ne Hinata. She inwardly groaned. She had forgotten all about that. Kiba had been a bug all week because of Naruto's sudden illness. The boy had even gotten the courage to ask her on a date, which was today. "Oh really?" Naruto asked, his voice almost as cold as it had been with Sakura. "Yeah, isn't that great, Naruto?" Kiba shouted in his boisterous voice. Hinata had to wonder if he was completely oblivious to Naruto's hard stare. She knew that Naruto didn't hate Kiba since they would speak on small occasions, so she was positive the blonde wasn't thinking murderous thoughts, at least she hoped. "No, it is not great because I never agreed, Kiba-kun." Her stutter was completely discarded as she practically shouted. Kiba looked shocked. Naruto looked surprised, and the black-haired Uchiha who had just arrived merely rolled his eyes. "I have practiced with my father." Her voice had dropped dramatically as she blushed 1,000 shades of red in embarrassment. "So please don't be mad." And Naruto smiled, his first real smile for the entire day. "I could never be mad at you, Hinata, if possible." She got darker, and much to her charring the world began to tip, before it became completely black. I said too much." Naruto chuckled as he fixed Hinata's position in his arms. He should have known better than to think he had cured her fainting episodes. "You should make me take her home," Kiba practically growled. Naruto raised a brow. "Kiba, I appreciate your friendship and all, but if you push it with Hinata, I won't let it slide." Kiba had died in the future war, so Naruto had been willing to give him a chance, but he could only give so much, and no more. Kiba gritted his teeth. "But Hinata, don't think I've given up though. I'm only lending her to you for a short time until she realizes her undying love for me." Naruto didn't even blink and merely watched as Kiba left the classroom. "I'm heading to the training grounds," Sasuke said with a yawn. "Make sure she gets home safe." He gave Naruto a parting tap on the shoulder before following Kiba's example and leaving the room. Naruto looked down at the young Hyuga who was snuggling closer to him for warmth. "I'll protect you this time, Hinata." He brushed away a lock of her hair. She had started to grow it for reasons unknown to him as to why. It probably had something to do with Sakura and the pinkette's long hair. He found that he was liking this version of his past a lot better than the other. With a soft chuckle he left through an open window, jumping from building to building as he headed for the Hyuga compound. "I promise I'll protect you." Sarutobi sat quietly in his office contemplating what could have happened to him in the future for the terrible war he had seen to occur. He had seen a fourth ninja war and then a battle of blood and massacre only years after with Danzo as the head. He would have to be cautious. Danzo was a dangerous man. This he already knew, but what Naruto showed him was a whole new level of dangerous. Whatever caused his inability to prevent the events that had occurred would obviously not be told to him. Naruto had made that clear when Sarutobi had asked the question 2 days after finding out about the future. But he had time, and since currently Naruto was the one with all the answers, then Sarutobi would at least listen to the boy's suggestions. Still, that did not mean he would allow the boy to run amok of his village. He would keep a close eye on him. This was why he took out his favorite crystal ball and watched as the fog cleared to reveal Naruto entering the Hyuga compounds with an unconscious Hyuga heir in his arms. The image was cut off from then since the Hyuga had seals up to block spying. With a sigh he put away the ball and leaned back in his chair. The young Hyuga heir had died in the future. She had died ensuring Naruto's safety. No doubt they had been together in the future. Maybe I should put them on the same team. No, Naruto seems to gravitate towards trouble, and I'm positive that if something befalls the Hyuga heir Konoha, maybe even the entire ninja world would be in danger. Best to keep them apart. The plan sounded plausible, so Sarutobi decided to go with it. As long as the Hyuga heir was safe, he was almost sure Naruto would be kept in line. Nothing would go wrong with this plan. It hurt. It hurt to open his eyes. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to move, and most of all it hurt to think. There were screams radiating through the air, and he refused to look at the torture taking place around him. His daily dosage of pain had already been delivered, and all he wanted to do was rest, just rest. But sleep didn't come to those in this chamber. He hadn't closed his eyes in weeks, and it showed on his face and in his temper. Something sharp poked him in his side, causing him to hiss in pain, but that was all it elicited from him. He refused to move. He had just found a comfortable position that didn't jostle the bleeding strips of flesh hanging from his back and the claw-like gashes on his chest. They would heal, of course. They always healed, but the process was slow because of the lack of adequate vitamins in his body. Demon Fox, it's time for your meeting with Danzo-sama. The voice was harsh, and seemed to be accompanied with the sharp pokes. Why did they call him that? They all knew his name. It was Naruto. Naruto. It was hard to imagine he had saved their sorry asses months prior. Unforgivable fuckers. I hope you know that your resistance only increases the Hyuga-hei's pain. Naruto's head snapped up. Ignoring the pain radiating around his body, he rose to a knelt position and gripped the bars of the cage around him. Leave her the fuck alone. His eyes blazed as they flashed between red and cerulean. The masked man before him merely chuckled. I doubt anyone would leave her delicious body alone. It's quite fun to hear her scream as we fuck her silly. Her poor sister just died last week, so her workload has drastically increased. Naruto snarled and made a grab for the bastard's throat, but missed by an inch. The man chuckled. You're so fun to file up. Now come along. Danzo-sama wishes to see you. 3 other masked individuals whom the blonde hadn't noticed stepped forward and flashed through a series of seals. Naruto knew it was pointless to resist, but he wasn't going to take anything without a fight. He struggled against the gold chains that shot up from the ground and bound him, growling and snarling despite the pain on his wounds. He was more than aware that if he hadn't placed an irremovable seal on the totem that could remove a tailed beast, that he would be dead. The totem had taken a lot of chakra to seal, but it was worth it if no one could find it or use it. Finally his strength began to leave him, and the doors to his cage were opened. Each of his capturers held a chain, leading him out of the room that held many other cages. There were even people being tortured from their chained positions to the walls. He kept his head low as he was led through many corridors before being pushed into a barely lit room and chained to the single chair in it. Ah, Naruto, my favorite doll in my collection. Naruto didn't even look up. He knew Danzo had entered. This session would go like every other. Danzo would ask him to join his forces and Naruto would refuse. Then Danzo would start delivering pain and Naruto would endure it until the man got annoyed and sent him back to his cage. Sadly, it was different this time. The sound of the door opening only slightly piqued his curiosity. Usually no one else entered. That curiosity was answered when a soft cry of pain followed by a sudden weight in his lap awarded him with the unique eyes of Hinata Hyuga. Her head and arms were draped over his legs and he could see the pain she had gone through radiate through her eyes. Her hair was dirty and draped over her white gown, and her wrists were bleeding from no doubt the binding they had used to keep her captive. She was surprisingly clean, unlike the others in the hellhole. Hinata? She gave him a small smile. It broke his soul to see that she still had it in her to smile at him. Her smile disappeared when she was harshly removed from him. His head snapped up to see her now within Danzo's grasp. The bastard had his arms held tightly around her waist while his mouth roamed her neck. Naruto snarled and struggled against his bonds. She looked so helpless and scared, but he could do nothing about it. Please, and no, not again. Not again. Her cries broke his heart, and he was only barely aware of the Kyuubi fighting against the bonds that kept him captive. Danzo had layered his seals so that Kyuubi could not speak with Naruto. Naruto was more than aware that the Kyuubi liked the Hyuga heiress and did not like what was about to take place. Danzo's eyes glinted. I've decided on a new approach, Naruto. It's either you join me or she gets fucked silly. Naruto looked defeated. He felt defeated. He could not cause her any more pain. He opened his mouth to accept but was cut off by a grunt of pain. Hinata had just jammed her elbow into Danzo's jaw. She scrambled away from him and quickly knelt before Naruto. You will not do what he says, do you hear me? She shouted. Never give him the joy of victory, Naruto. You bitch. Danzo snarled, kicking her into the face and sending her into the opposite wall. Hinata! Naruto began to struggle even more. I would kill you if I could, but since I can't, I'll just do something even better. Naruto watched in horror as Danzo approached Hinata's quivering form. She could barely stand. No. Stop. Leave her alone. Naruto felt the last piece of his heart shatter when she looked at him with eyes that held no contempt for him and mouthed 3 words, I love you. And oh. Naruto shot up in bed, his eyes leaking tears. It was with relief that he noticed he was in his room and not watching his Hinata's brutal rape. He held his head in pain. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He repeated the words over and over again, even though he knew the event had not yet come to pass. I'm sorry, Kit. I tried to keep them away, but that one slipped through my barriers. I will not allow this to happen again. Naruto was barely aware of Kurama's words. All he knew was that he would not allow her to go through that pain again. he would protect her this time. His eyes filled with the bloodlust he had accumulated from the future. I'll protect you even if it costs me my life. Sasuke quietly ate his ramen as he watched Naruto conversing with Hinata. This was what he came to know as anything. He now thought of Hinata and Naruto as his family. In a month they would take the genin exams and most likely than not, they would all separate. The teams were always balanced, and each team was unique. Hinata's Kekagenkai would probably place her on a recon or tracking squad. He wasn't sure about Naruto. The dope still couldn't get down a basic clone, and that was one of the main jutsus for the exam, but the mere thought of his current family breaking apart did not bode well with his peace of mind. It was with this train of thought that he pulled Naruto aside after Hinata left for her usual training sessions with her father. She hadn't been coming to their practices for a while, but she promised that she would be free next week to catch up. We can't let them put us on different teams, he informed the blonde. Naruto grinned. He had been waiting on Sasuke to ask that question. After much contemplation, he had decided that not having Hinata on his team would be torture, but to get her on the team would require a lot of influence. I've been wondering how to fix that too, Naruto mused. Playing dumb, you have any ideas? Sasuke shook his head and inwardly Naruto groaned. He had thought that Sasuke would have at least reached that point. Naruto put on a thoughtful look. To get Aji-san to switch, then we would need a lot of influence. It was like a bulb went off in Sasuke's head. I'm so stupid, he hissed. Damn right, Naruto thought. Follow me, Dobe. We're going to see Hokage-sama. Naruto rolled his eyes, but still obliged. Sometimes he wondered how the hell Sasuke managed to live so long in the future with this mental capacity. Then again, people had probably thought the same thing about him. Hiruzen's eyes zoned in on Naruto's when the blonde and Sasuke entered his office. He couldn't help but wonder what this conversation was about. Hokage-sama, I have a request, Sasuke said, wasting no time for pleasantries. Hiruzen slowly moved his eyes away from Naruto's disinterested ones to focus on Sasuke. The Uchiha looked determined, and what would that be? He laced his fingers together and rested his chin upon them. I hope it is of great importance. There was a flicker of panic in the Uchiha's eyes, but it was quickly masked. Hiruzen had to admit he was impressed by the Uchiha's self-control. It is. We wish to have a team with all three of us. Sasuke made a gesture to Naruto. Due to the Uchiha's attention being solely on Hiruzen, he did not notice that Naruto was examining his nails rather than paying attention to the conversation. Hiruzen raised a brow. I only see two people in front of me, Sasuke. Sasuke gave him a look that practically screamed, you know what I mean. Hinata is the third person. I wish for all three of us to be on the same team upon graduation. Hiruzen sighed. I fear I cannot do that. He shook his head. You all form an unbalanced team. Hinata belongs in a recon team with people who can support her abilities. The least I can do is place you and Naruto on the same team. Inwardly Hiruzen smiled. He knew Naruto would be happy with this arrangement. After all, the blonde strived for Hinata's protection, and since the blonde was a trouble magnet, Hiruzen knew he had picked properly. Sadly, this did not seem to be the truth, since for the first time since entering the room, Naruto focused his attention on Hiruzen. Because the blonde was a few steps behind Sasuke, the Uchiha did not see the demonically cold eyes that he fixed on the Hokage. Surely you can reconsider, Aji-san. Hinata means a lot to us, and it would kill us not to have her with us. Sasuke nodded. I have never asked for much in this village, but as the last Uchiha I would have thought that you could at least grant this wish. Hiruzen forced his eyes to tear away from Naruto's. They sent a cold shiver through him and reminded him that the blonde was not some dumb 12-year-old academy student, but a killer from the future in the body of a child. To think I thought I had made the right choice with the team. Seems I'll have to spend some time rearranging them. Hiruzen sighed. He was getting too old for this. I'll speak to the council about your request. A look of triumph entered Sasuke's eyes, because surely he already knew that the council would vote for whatever he wanted as long as it meant his comfort. You hear that, Dobe? Sasuke turned to face Naruto. The blonde had already plastered on his mask of joy. Our team is as good as set. I got to admit I'm impressed, Naruto said with a grin. Sasuke smirked, a look of smug superiority on his face before he turned and left, Naruto following close behind. Hiruzen pulled out his pipe. I need to retire. I apologize. Hinata blinked. Was she dreaming, or was Sakura standing next to her desk trying to apologize? If that was what was happening, then the pinkette was failing horribly. Sakura had a huge scowl on her face, looking as if she would rather be anywhere but there. Iruka had not yet entered the classroom, so the noise level was off the charts. Of course, the noise practically vanished after Sakura's words. Naruto sat next to Hinata, sending dark looks at the pinkette, causing her to fidget. Ha! Hinata said, her mind still trying to come to terms with the fact that Sakura was apologizing. I said I'm sorry for what I said about you. Hinata nodded numbly. Oh, okay. It's not okay, Hinata. She doesn't even look like she means it, Naruto hissed, his eyes tearing into Sakura's now trembling form. I do mean I. Sakura stuttered. I'm sorry. You understand Sakura-san. Hinata clapped a hand over Naruto's mouth before he could speak. You can go back to your seat now. Sakura nodded and left quickly, just in time too, since Iruka had entered. Naruto glowered at Hinata. How could you let her off so easily? Hinata smiled. Because I can. Holding a grudge is not healthy, and planning our revenge is time consuming. She turned to the board and began jotting down notes. Naruto, on the other hand, had his attention fixated on her. Revenge is time-consuming, she says. Naruto mentally relayed to Kurama. She has yet to experience the horrors of war or the loss accompanied with it. Do remember that she will not have the same views as her future self. Naruto watched her raise her hand shyly to ask a question and smiled. Her innocence is something I missed in the future. I know, they destroyed that part of her, and I couldn't lift a hand to stop it. They fucking destroyed her. Kurama sighed. That won't happen this time, Naruto. You won't let it happen. Sakura rose to answer a question and Naruto felt rage boil. That bitch. It's all her fault. I would suggest you calm down. Hinata is worried. Naruto looked to his side and saw Hinata glancing at him, worry evident in her eyes. He gave her a reassuring smile before spending a few minutes calming his agitated nerves. Sakura would be punished. He would ensure it. It was time. That was the thought that went through Naruto's head when he woke up on the day of the exams. He knew what he would have to do. It wasn't a simple question of pass or don't pass. It was more along the lines of use the shadow clone technique and be subject to a million questions as to how he learned it, or steal the scroll and pretend that was how he learned it. The answer was obvious now. It was all a matter of failing and waiting for Mizuki to make his move. Hinata let out a deep breath when she saw Sasuke walk out of the examination room with his headband tightly secured to his forehead. She had chosen to wear her S loosely around her neck. Naruto had commented that it looked really cute, especially with her hair, which now brushed the tip of her shoulders. Speaking of Naruto, he had just gone in. Do you think he'll pass, Sasuke-kun? She asked softly, her stutter non-existent around the boy she had come to know as family. Sasuke shrugged. Leaning against the tree that held the swing she currently sat in, the dobe still doesn't know how to form a proper clone. That wasn't what she wanted to hear. She made silent prayers as the minutes ticked by and she waited and waited and waited until finally she saw a glimpse of blonde hair at the door. She flew to her feet, ready to go over and congratulate him, when she noticed the absence of the headband. He looked pissed. Naruto? She whispered, watching as he walked by them without even sparing them a glance. Naruto! She shouted. Sasuke grabbed her wrist before she could go after him. Leave him alone. He needs to clear his mind. Hinata sobbed. This cannot be happening. He felt terrible, but what had to be done had to be done. He didn't want to involve Hinata. Before, he had thought that maybe he should tell her and Sasuke about his plans, about the secret base and about the truth of his existence, but it just didn't feel like the right time he would tell them about the plans and the base. Just not right now. The fact that he was from the future was a whole other issue in and of itself. The exams were almost over and Mizuki would be looking for him soon, so he decided to stop by Ichiraku's. He was finishing his fifth bowl when a scent he recognized wafted through the air. After years, like in the future years, of honing his enhanced skills, it became child's play to distinguish between the many smells in the air. With a smirk he swallowed the last bit and waved goodbye. Ichiraku had given him as many as he wanted free since he had looked so depressed, which was a good thing since he hadn't brought any money with him. His depressed mood seemed to increase as he left, and barely even a minute after he had left the store, Mizuki appeared. Naruto, Iruka was really harsh, wasn't he? Mizuki asked, falling in step next to the seemingly depressed blonde. Yeah, I guess I'll have to try again next term, which is in months. Naruto kicked a pebble. I'll never get to be a Hokage at this rate. Well, if that's how you feel, then I guess there's no point in telling you an easier way to pass. Naruto froze, his cloak and bandana flying in the wind as he gave Mizuki his undivided attention. There's another way? Mizuki nodded, hiding the evil glint that had momentarily flashed across his face. Of course. If you do one thing, a simple mission, and you do it without being caught, then you'll be qualified to be a genin. He's already Hokage in skills, you fucking fool, Kurama growled. Naruto ignored him. Really? Yes, it's so high-leveled. I doubt you might be able to do it. It was bait, of course, an obvious bait that Naruto honestly could not believe he had fallen for when he was younger. You know what I mean. But bait or not, he had to take it. I'll do it. Sneaking into the Hokage's residence was easier this time. It was easy when he did it before, but since his skills were well above what they had been the first time, it was much easier. Now let's see, he whispered, looking at the large shelves filled with scrolls and books. He had broken in faster than last time and had a lot more time to look about. I'll take you minus. He grabbed the forbidden scroll and I'll copy whatever else I want. He took out 6 blank scrolls and quickly unrolled them. Under one scroll he opened the forbidden scroll and under the others he opened the other scrolls he was interested in. He made a single hand sign and focus replicate. A thin line of chakra flowed from him to each empty scroll and then from each empty scroll to the ones above them. In less than 10 seconds, he had a copy of everything. He did this routine 6 more times, switching between scrolls to scrolls and books to books. When everything was through, he sealed them all into a seal he had painted on his chest. Minus the original forbidden scroll, of course, minus, and left. Boring. Naruto mentally yawned as he listened to Mizuki go on and on about why the village hated him. It was so annoying having to do this all over again. Now here comes the finale. Mizuki threw the huge shuriken. Iruka, of course, threw himself in front Naruto to block the projectile. Don't listen to him. Naruto minus the blonde blocked out whatever else came out of Iruka's mouth. It really was a bore. After putting Iruka to the side minus and practically saying everything he had already said before, minus the blonde faced Mizuki. This is for Iruka-sensei. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. If anything, the clones actually looked more than last time. Maybe that was because he had been doing chakra control with Hinata and Sasuke. It looked cooler this time around too. His new set of clothes did wonders get him. This part was actually where things took a different turn. The clones beat Mizuki to a pulp, the difference being that this time Naruto added a special paper bomb. The effect was devastating. At least 6 trees went up in flames along with half his clones. Usually memories of the dead clones would bombard his mind, but after years of practice, he could easily block them out. Naruto! Iruka shouted in horror. What did you do? Naruto faced Iruka with a face that would fool anyone. That wasn't supposed to happen, Iruka-sensei. Naruto cried, falling to his knees in dejection, fake tears pouring down his cheek. I just wanted to try out the paper bombs I tried making. It was only supposed to blast him enough to knock him out. Iruka was immediately by his side, trying to comfort the blonde despite his injury. It's okay, Naruto. In this life you have to get used to death. There will be intentional death and unintentional. Hi, Iruka-sensei. Naruto took a few seconds to get rid of his fake tears before facing Iruka. I guess I'll see you again in class in a few months then. Iruka shook his head. You've already proven to me that you will make an exceptional genin. Iruka took off his headband. This time he didn't tie it around Naruto's head because of his red headband. Instead he handed it to him, giving Naruto the option to choose. Congratulations on making genin, Naruto. Hinata took her little time in reaching class. Usual, she would try to reach early so that she and Naruto could talk for a while before Iruka appeared, but since the blonde obviously wouldn't be there, she chose to spend as much time as she could on the street. Are you okay, Hinata-sama? Zillo asked from next to her. After he had taken her to the match with Hikari, he had been made her security to class. Usually one of her boys, as she now referred to Naruto and Sasuke, would walk her home. I am fine. Goodbye, Zillo-kun. She waved and entered the academy building. Her already slow steps seemed to get even slower as she approached the class. I already know there's no possible way we would all get on the same team, but not having Naruto graduate with me is even worse than that. With a sigh she entered the class. Iruka had yet to arrive and the noise level was escalating. She kept her head down as she made her way to her seat, giving Sasuke a small smile which Sakura showed her displeasure of by glaring before going to her seat and plopping down. The absence of Naruto made the world seem empty. Iruka arrived and after settling down and congratulating everyone he took out a folder with papers. No doubt it held the teams. Before he could start though, the door opened and in stepped Naruto. Hinata felt her mouth hang open, not because Naruto had just walked into the class but because of the headband around his forehead. His red bandana had replaced the blue cloth in the headband and fixed the item securely around his head. What's the dead last doing here? Sakura shrieked, momentarily forgetting the danger that was Naruto. Naruto grinned. Obviously that's because I passed. What? Sakura had definitely forgotten how Naruto had almost ripped her to shreds. I passed. What? You can't understand my words now? How the hell did that happen? Sakura turned red, especially as Naruto walked right by her without answering her question. He took his place next to the still shell-shocked Hyuga. Are you catching flies? Immediately Hinata's mouth shut. How did you? He placed a finger to her lip. I'll tell you later. She nodded, flushing brightly but not fainting since she had been practicing to get rid of that awful habit. Every time she fainted she missed precious time with Naruto. That could not be condoned. Lots of people were looking for you, Naruto. Is that the reason you passed? Kiba asked. He, like all the others in the class, had noticed the search going for Naruto yesterday. It wasn't hard to miss. Iruka cleared his throat to gain attention. How he got it is not something you have to know. If Naruto wishes to tell you, then he will. Let's begin. Naruto, unlike Hinata, blocked out everything that was being said until Iruka reached Team 10. He wanted to see who Sarutobi placed on the rookie 9 teams. Placing Hinata on his team might mix everything up. Team 10, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka and Shuji Akimichi. Well, obviously they would stay the same. Team 9, Izumi Chitsu, Kimiko Minabe and Sakura Haruno. Oh fuck. Team 8, Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame and Namiko Minabe. Is this for real? What the fuck was Sarutobi thinking? Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga. Hinata's squeal broke him from his thoughts. The look of pure delight on her face had him smiling. Hopefully Team 9 didn't make it and Sakura would leave his life. Iruka finished the teams and told them they would have to wait for their Jounin-sensei before promptly leaving the room. Naruto knew Kakashi wouldn't be there for a while, so he grabbed Hinata and pulled her down towards Sasuke. Sakura was still in her seat, refusing to leave and sit with her team. Apparently she was still in shock because she wasn't with Sasuke. Move, Naruto hissed, watching as the pinkette rose to her feet, once again forgetting he could and probably would end her life. But before Sakura could dig herself a grave, Hinata stepped out from her spot behind Naruto. Sakura-san, I'm sure you don't want a repeat of last time, Hinata said, earning Naruto a wary glance from the pinkette. Sakura quickly grabbed her things and hurried to her team. Naruto had never really paid attention to people in the class. But now that Sakura was on Team 9, and a chick had replaced Hinata, he took a second to observe them. Izumi was much like Shino in the sense that he was unusually silent. He was always dressed in black pants with his ninja sandals and a long-sleeved red shirt with an open black vest over it. He had long red hair that he kept in a low ponytail. It was almost as bright as Naruto's mother's hair. Izumi wore his headband around his thigh, just below his weapon pouches. Kimiko was the twin sister of Mimiko. It was easy to tell them apart because of the color of their eyes, their hair, personalities and mode of dress. Kimiko had her auburn hair cut to her neck and curled, It was held back by her headband while Mimiko had her hair falling all the way to her waist. More often than not it was in to separate low ponytails. Kimiko had dark blue eyes and was the twin with the feisty personality. She was always in black shorts, ninja sandals and green tube top. Bandages were wrapped around her exposed stomach and went all the way up to her chest. The bandages also covered her exposed legs. Mimiko on the other hand had pale green eyes. She was the shy twin. She dressed in a dark blue half kimono. It had a black obi and one sleeve that stooped above her wrist. The other was cut off at the shoulder. She had on black wrist gloves, her sandals and black pants that fell a little below her knees. Her headband was wrapped around her exposed shoulder. One by one each team left. The sensei for Team 9 was a man that Naruto recognized as Hitomi Akashi. The man had fought in the war against Danzo and died. He had black hair that was kept in a half ponytail. He was dressed in a black pants, his sandals and a simple black t-shirt with an open vest. Strapped to his waist was a sword and located on his neck was a large black tattoo of a star. If you read or watched Code Breaker then the Hitomi there is the one I'm using. As Naruto predicted, Team 7 was the last left. When Kakashi walked in he found his team talking in low volumes. Naruto had been telling them how he got his headband minus the explosion of course and the QB. "You're late," Sasuke hissed when he spotted Kakashi. Kakashi chuckled, scratching the back of his neck. Sorry about that. Anyhow meet me on the roof pronto. If you're not there in 5 minutes then I'm kicking you all back to the academy." Kakashi disappeared and they all quickly left the room. Naruto mentally scowled when he thought of the fact that he could have easily Hiroshined to Kakashi's location, but then that would bring on even more questions. He would wait until the Chunin exams to show his skills. It would make everything much more entertaining. They made it with 2 minutes to spare. The practice they had been doing was working off. They were this fast with the weights on. Imagine if they were off. Hinata and Sasuke were panting slightly when they stepped onto the cool roof. Naruto, on the other hand, didn't look like he had just run up 4 floors. Fast, Kakashi murmured. "Well, all of you can sit anywhere. As a team, we need to learn a bit about each other." They all sat next to each other. Hinata in the middle. "I want to know your name, likes, dislikes and goals." "How about why you go first, Kakashi-sensei?" Hinata stuttered, not used to the man and therefore going back to her stuttering speech pattern. Kakashi cocked an eyebrow but still let out a resigned sight. He was leaned against the railings with an orange book in his crossed arms. "I'm Kakashi Hatake, your Jounin-sensei. I like lots of things, dislike few things and my goals are none of your business." "We only learned your name," both Sasuke and Hinata thought at the same time. "You next, princess." Hinata blushed at the term but answered all the same. "I am Hinata Hyuga. I like my friends, my family and chocolate. I dislike people who are mean and my goal in life is to be strong like my father, and kind like my mother." Kakashi nodded. "You're up Uchiha." Sasuke, "Uchiha. I like stuff, dislike stuff and my goal in life is revenge on a certain person." Naruto nearly rolled his eyes. One way or another he would have to get Sasuke to see the light. The Uchiha was being utterly insane. Itachi wasn't even the real bad guy. When Kakashi looked at him Naruto knew it was his turn. Naruto thought it was pointless since Kakashi already knew who he was. It was standard protocol though and had to be done. The names Naruto Uzumaki. "I like Hinata and ramen. I dislike a lot of people and my goal in life is a secret." Hinata blushed when she heard that he liked her. She would have been ecstatic too if she didn't now that Naruto probably thought of her as a good friend. Kakashi rose an eye at the last bit but chose not to comment. He was sure Naruto would have said he wanted to be Hokage since that's out the way. "Meet me on training ground 54 tomorrow at 6, and don't eat anything, don't be late either." Kakashi waved goodbye and disappeared in a puff. "Why do you think we shouldn't eat food?" Hinata asked as they made their way back down the stairs. This time they walked. "I don't know, I would suggest you guys at least eat an apple," Naruto answered. It wasn't like Kakashi would know or anything and he refused to let Hinata fight without at least a bit of sustenance. "So, you guys up for a quick workout?" Sasuke asked. Hinata nodded. This would be fun. She couldn't wait until yesterday. The question of what they would be doing floated around in both Hinata and Sasuke's heads. Naruto, on the other hand, was trying to figure out whether he should have shrimp or beef ramen for lunch. Mizuki was scared shitless. He had woken up hours ago to find himself in a cold, damp room trapped in a cage. He feared for his because he could see the countless torture weapons splayed out on an old table, and the blood staining the walls. The only light he got came from the bulbs that were lining the edge of the walls. They were held up by wires and seemed to disappear through the large steel door blocking his view on what lay beyond it. Mizuki didn't understand how he got there. The last thing he remembered was the blonde brat attaching a seal to his back and fire exploding around him. The funny thing was that a light blue sphere was protecting him. He was sure he had luck on his side, at least until a clone appeared. It was also cloaked in the weird shield and had promptly knocked him out. Had the brat brought him here? That was impossible. The sound of footsteps echoed and he quickly looked up. Someone was coming, the one who had taken. The sound grated on his nerves. It was as if the person was purposely making their presence known. The sound of multiple locks clicked rang through the air, and the door screeched open. Who Mizuki saw had him trying and failing to go further back in the cage. The person wasn't even his height, but their mask and the power that leaked out of him had Mizuki recoiling. The words that spilled from the person's lips next had him mentally begging destiny for mercy. "You and I need to talk, Mizuki, and I'm sure I'll enjoy every moment of it." Sakura was consumed by rage as she walked with her teammates to the training grounds. It was the day after team placement, and Hitomi had ordered them to meet on Training Ground 23 today. Kimiko was talking animatedly with Izumi, despite the boy only answering few of her questions, and even then it was with grunts. She tried to get Sakura to talk too, but the pinkette refused to speak with them. "Oh, come on, guys," Kimiko whined. "We are a team. How do you expect teamwork if we don't talk to each other?" "I believe you are right," Izumi said, saying the longest sentence out of his mouth since Kimiko begun talking. They entered the training grounds with half an hour to spare before Hitomi appeared. Sakura walked away from them and sat next to a tree. "I don't think we need to talk with anyone," she hissed, refusing to look at them. "Why? Because you dear Sasuke-kun isn't here?" Kimiko asked. She had never been one to act lovey-dovey with boys. "Get over it." Izumi placed a hand on Kimiko's shoulder. "Be calm." She shrugged off his hand before marching to another tree and planting herself at its base. He sighed as he stood between both trees. He looked at either girl before staring up at the sky, hoping it would swallow him up. Hinata munched on an apple as she slowly made her way to the training ground. She was already half an hour late. Naruto said she should try and be an hour late, but she simply couldn't stay at home that long and disobey orders. What if Naruto was wrong and Kakashi was there waiting for them? They would be in a lot of trouble. She took another bite of the apple before jumping atop a building. She followed the route from building to building before she came to the training grounds. Neither Naruto nor Sasuke were there. Apparently Sasuke had decided to follow Naruto and be extra late. She sighed and spent a few seconds munching on the remains of her apple before deciding on practicing. She had a number of ways to train, but she had been wanting to try out one for a while. It was difficult, and she wanted to at least get it down before showing Naruto or Sasuke, that way she could teach them. The remainder of the apple was placed on the ground, then she took a few steps back. Complete control, she thought as she slipped into the Hyuga stance, her hand beginning to glow a dull blue. Her eyes were focused solely on the apple, and after a deep breath she swept her left hand to the side. Nothing happened. She continued for what seemed like hours but was merely minutes with no results. Sweat dripped from her face as she kept heaving for breath. She ceased for a few minutes, glaring at the small object. She would not disappoint Naruto and Sasuke. They were both stronger than her in more ways than one, and she refused to sit back and watch them leave her behind. She once more slipped into the stance, determination shining on her face. "I will not lose." Instead of sweeping her hand like she had the last time, she swept her left leg to the side. The apple rolled to the side and a grin tore across her face. She swept a hand up and the apple flew up into the air. She frowned too much. When it started to come back down, she swept her hand up when it was even close to the ground and watched as it didn't go as far as last time. She started to move her arms and legs in different patterns. It was as if she was in a dance. The apple was swept up, around, down, and all over the place. She stopped when exhaustion took over. "I did it," she whispered, a blinding smile on her face. "I did it, Naruto." She dragged herself to the shade of a tree, stripping off her sweater to reveal a sweat-soaked black blouse. The smile was still on her face as she drifted off to sleep, her body curled in a fetal position under the shade. And this was how Sasuke found her when he arrived 5 minutes later. He was exactly an hour late. He took a seat in the tree she was under, deciding to let her sleep. Naruto arrived half an hour after to take a seat next to her, following Sasuke's idea of not waking her. Exactly 1.5 hours later, Kakashi arrived in a puff of smoke. "Sorry I'm late, I got lost on the road of life," he said, scratching the side of his head. Sasuke scowled but said nothing, and Naruto merely rolled his eyes. Kakashi saw the sleeping Hyuga and rose a brow. "Now why is the princess asleep?" he inquired. Naruto yawned before answering. "Isn't it obvious? She's tired." Sasuke nodded in agreement. "She's been having morning practice with her father, so she doesn't get enough sleep." Kakashi nodded. "Well, wake her up, I have something to say." Sasuke hopped down while Naruto shook Hinata awake. "Hinata, you have to get up," he whispered, shaking the exhausted girl. She rolled but eventually opened her eyes and accepted his help to get to her feet. Sasuke handed her the sweater and she pulled it on. "Hello, sleeping beauty," Kakashi said from his position. He had been watching the small interaction between the genin. The three were obviously close. Maybe they would pass the test, maybe. After all, when threatened with going back to the academy, their bond might break. "Now I want your attention." They stopped the small conversation they had been having. "Today will be a test. A test that will see one of you three heading back to the academy." Hinata gasped. "What?" she asked in shock. Kakashi continued as if he hadn't heard her. "It's called the Bell Test. Something I made up to test just how qualified you are to be genin." He saw Hinata's confusion. "Surely you didn't think passing that easy academy test was a one-way ticket to being a genin?" Sasuke's scowl spoke wonders to how he took the jibe at his intelligence. "I have 2 bells." He showed them the tiny silver bells. "Only 2 of you will pass. The persons with a bell after 4 hours will become genin. The one without will fail and be sent back to the academy." "You can't be serious!" Hinata shouted, surprising Kakashi and apparently herself as she brought her hands to cover her mouth. "Sorry, sensei, but you can't separate us, you just can't." Kakashi sighed. "It's the rules. We can't have incompetent genin." Hinata flinched, and Sasuke's scowl got darker. Naruto calmly stepped forward. "Can we just get this over with?" "Why, certainly, Naruto. The test begins now." All 3 disappeared. Hinata was hyperventilating. Naruto held her up and fanned her with his hand while Sasuke made small comforting circles on her back. "I can't fail this. Father will be so disappointed." "We won't fail," Naruto told her. "This is a test of teamwork." "Hinata, didn't you guys see it?" Sasuke and Hinata both shook their heads. prompting Naruto to answer. He wants us to be pitted against one another, which will destroy our teamwork and make it easy to pick us off. Being a team is all about teamwork, and if our team isn't able to work together during a test, then we won't be able to during the real thing. Realization crawled onto Hinata's face. So even if I don't get a bell, I'll still pass if we show teamwork? Naruto nodded. Exactly. Kakashi stifled a giggle as he reached a really good part in his Ika series. He wished he had someone like Mia to do to him what she was doing to Hizumi. His head seemed to go deeper into the book as it got better. He felt more than saw a kunai fly towards him. He stepped to the side only for more to shoot towards him from different directions, so he substituted, but that was where everything went wrong. His head snapped up when he felt over 100 chakra signatures. You've got to be kidding me, he thought when he saw over 100 clones of Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke. He had been told that Naruto could do clones, but was it possible for the other two to do it as well? Just making 2 shadow clones drastically depleted his chakra. The blonde clones charged and he sighed as he went back to the book. The clones attacked, and he simply weaved around them, using his free hand or legs to dispel them. He took out at least 10 more blondes before the Hinata clones charged. He slashed the chest and to his utter shock found himself flying back, a few scratches on his face. An exploding shadow clone? He asked himself in horror, how the hell did these kids know how to make exploding clones? Those things were never used because of the sheer amount of chakra it took to make them. They could die from chakra exhaustion. All the clones charged and Kakashi found himself dodging and using substitution, most of them as they exploded. It was rather annoying. If he could use mid or high level jutsu, this would have ended a long time ago. The last 3 clones jumped at him, and he flipped back. They promptly exploded, and he almost let out a sigh of relief only to have 3 more shoot through the remaining smoke. They were too close to dodge the incoming assault. He sent a kick at Hinata, but she moved like liquid silver under it. Sasuke took the advantage to leap into the air for a drop kick, while at the same time Naruto aimed a punch for Kakashi's side. They probably would have landed if Kakashi wasn't at Umbu level in skills. He twisted and turned to avoid getting hit by any of them, then kicked Hinata into a tree. When the Hyuga didn't disappear or explode, he realized that the ones before him weren't copies. He jumped lightly into the air and aimed a knee at Sasuke's head that sent the Uchiha flying across the field and rolling through the dirt. Before his feet were fully on the ground, he twisted in the air and sent a kick at Naruto, only for the boy to explode. The blast knocked him into the air and he quickly righted himself so that he could land on both legs. He coughed up the smoke. He had substituted too late, leading to the right side of his clothes being scorched. Cling cling. His hands shot to his pants before his head turned in the direction of the noise. There he saw Naruto standing between Hinata and Sasuke, both of whom had a bell in their hands. Kakashi's eyes furrowed. This was impossible. A bunch of genins, regardless of 2 being from prominent clans and 1 having the Kyuubi as an inmate, had just beat him and had absolutely no idea how they did it. He had dodged the last attack well to ensure no one got a bell, yet still 2 out of 3 had won. We pass, correct? Naruto asked, a smug smile on his face. Hinata clapped her hands in joy, and with 2 hours to spare, Kakashi sighed. Yes, you all passed. Your teamwork was impeccable. Hinata squealed and threw her arms around Naruto and Sasuke, causing both boys to smile lightly at her. Kakashi watched the exchange. They were just like his team when they were younger. I want to know how exactly I was beat, he said, garnering attention. Sensei, Hinata started, reverting back to her shy self when she remembered she was in the presence of a superior. She was doing that finger thing again while trying to disappear in her sweater. It was Naruto's idea. He made all those clones and had some of them henge into us, then he made them attack. After fighting so much clones with half of them exploding, you would be on the alert. Sasuke picked up when the last 3 exploded. You were surprised to find 3 more. When Hinata or I didn't explode, you assumed Naruto wasn't a clone also. And you know the result of your error. Kakashi nodded. So it was Naruto's idea. That blonde was definitely smart. That doesn't explain how you got the bells. Hinata held up a palm, revealing a black seal. Naruto painted them in each of our palms. They act as magnets. She placed her bell in it, then flashed her hand, but it didn't fall off. We knew we couldn't beat you. We just wanted to get close enough to get the bells. Kakashi blinked. He had to tell the Hokage about this. How was it that a genin could create such a complicated seal? He knew the Namikes were seal masters, but for a child who wasn't even aware of his parentage to show such knowledge was unsettling. He decided to get his mind away from the thought. Well, it's time for your reward and punishment. Hinata stared at him, and he answered her unspoken question. Well, the persons with a bell get to eat the bento that I brought, while the one without has to get tied up. 5 minutes later, Naruto was tied to a wooden post with Hinata and Sasuke on either side with delicious-looking and smelling bentos. Kakashi was up in a tree reading his Ika. He didn't have to look to know that they would share the food with Naruto. Say on Naruto. The blonde did as told, and Hinata gave him a roll of sushi. It was like her fantasy come true, only this time Sasuke was also feeding the blonde, which was a bit unsettling. What if Sasuke turned out to be gay? She threw away the thought as it came. No way. Hinata ran through the Hyuga compound, trying to find her father, who happened to not be in his study. She wanted to tell him how her battle had gone. He would have a proud smile on his face that he reserved only for her and Hanabi. She turned a corner and had to quickly twirl to avoid a head-on collision. I'm so sorry, she whispered, bowing slightly. She stood up straight and nearly tumbled over from the shock of seeing the hatred-filled eyes of her cousin Niji and Aizen. "I heard you beat Hikari," he said coldly. She nodded, not wanting to speak lest she make an embarrassment of herself. "Do not feel that your simple win against her makes you any less of a destined failure." He took a step towards her, and she stepped back. "We all know Hikari was never strong to begin with." He glared one last time before vanishing around the corner. Hinata fell to her knees in relief. Niji hated her like the plague, but she didn't blame him. After all, it was her incompetency that caused his father's death. She would never forgive herself for that, and that was why she trained hard every day to become strong enough so that her uncle's sacrifice would not be in vain. With a sigh, she stood and made her way to her room. She could tell her father the news at dinner. Hiruzen looked up at Kakashi after reading his report. "He created such a complicated seal in such a short span of time?" he asked. Kakashi nodded. "It's actually a bit confusing. A seal that complicated would take a few days to create, and even then not most people would put it to use." It was as if he knew what the test would be and prepared the seal beforehand. Hiruzen waved off Kakashi's statement. "Nonsense, Kakashi. How would he possibly know that? You have no idea how right you are, Kakashi." "I suppose you're right. Goodbye, Hokage-sama." Kakashi disappeared, and Hiruzen almost let out a sigh of relief he would have if Iruka wasn't currently standing by his side. "Are you sure this is skill, Hokage-sama?" Iruka asked. "Naruto has changed quite a bit. He is no longer brash. He thinks everything through before doing it." He probably knew they would have a test. "Naruto is the sole heir to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. It is only natural that he can create a seal so quickly. Do not question me, Iruka. I doubt he even put any effort into making it." Naruto entered the underground catacomb clad in his Reaper getup. He walked through the tunnels that were now lit by lighting he had attached to the walls. He reached a large area that he had dubbed the Heart due to it being at the very center of the catacomb, and entered one of its many branching tunnels. He walked for a few minutes before coming to an intersection where he took a right and stopped at the first door he came to. The door led to one of the largest rooms in the catacomb. It was basically a library which had been a training room before Naruto had renovated it. Now it held shelves upon shelves. At least half of them were filled with the scrolls and books Naruto had collected around Konoha while under a henge. The scrolls he had taken from the Hokage's mansion were all on a single shelf by themselves. He bit his finger and wiped it along the wooden floor. Kuchiyos no Jutsu. A puff of smoke. Later, a figure clad in a black cloak appeared. They were about the height of Kakashi, making it obvious it was an adult. The figure fell to its knees. "Naruto-sama." Its voice was deep, linking it to being a male. Naruto growled. "What did I say about referring to me that way in this outfit, Miko?" "I apologize, Shinigami-sama. To what do I owe the pleasure of being summoned?" Naruto walked past Miko and took the couch that was at the center of the library. There were 3 more, and they all surrounded a small wooden table. Miko didn't move from his position, and Naruto didn't make any gesture to him to do so. "I want a report on the progress of my spy network." Miko didn't move but still answered. "Mira and Kikyo have already acquired 10 informants each. I am close to achieving that amount, but that only covers Konoha, Suna and AIM. We require more assistance." "I see. Well then, I'll only send out 1 more." Naruto wiped his already bloody finger against the table and recited the before jutsu. There was another puff of smoke. Only this time a fox appeared. It was a fully grown female 3-tailed snow fox. Her eyes were a deep red and on each of her legs was a metal bracer. "To what do I owe the pleasure, Shinigami-sama?" the fox asked, her voice surprisingly serene. Naruto took out an ink and brush from one of the many seals on his body. "You have been chosen to assist Miko, Kikyo, and Mira develop my spy network." He started to paint a large seal on the fox's back. "I do not want incompetent fools." He finished the seal in record time and made a single hand sign transform. A completely nude, white-haired, red-eyed woman appeared, took the place of the fox on the table, a metal bracer on each of her appendages. Her hair flowed over the table but did nothing to hide her body, though she didn't seem to mind. "Wow," she said in excitement. "So this is the jutsu the fox in the other world are so excited about." Naruto didn't seem to care that a beautiful naked woman was in front of him. After all, in his eyes Hinata was the most beautiful woman in the world. "This jutsu only holds for 2 weeks. So it has to be renewed at that time. Hopefully in 2 months it will no longer be required, as I will have actual humans managing my networks." The woman stood and bowed. "I, Yuki of the Snow Fox tribe, will do my best to serve you, Shinigami-sama." She went to Miko's side, and after they both bowed they disappeared. "Now aren't you happy you took the fox summons from me?" Kurama asked smugly. Naruto sighed. "Quite. If not, I would not have been able to start my network until the Wave L mission. Just remember that you are being watched, and we cannot have the network moving too fast. Jiraiya might get suspicious, and we do not want him on our back at the moment." Naruto nodded. "Now I just have to torture Mizuki until he swears allegiance to me and then go home. I'm dead tired." Naruto stood between Sasuke and Hinata as they watched Madame Shirjimi choke Tora to death. He had gone through 2 weeks of endless D-rank missions without a bit of complaint because he knew the day would when he finally went to Whirlpool, and today was the day. "Thank you so much for returning my Tora to me." Shirjimi smiled and flounced from the room. Hinata watched the cat go with sympathy. No doubt they would be looking for Tora again real soon. The moment the woman was gone, Naruto stepped forward. "Najiji, I'm sick of D-rank missions, they're annoying. How does finding a flower or catching a cat help me in being a better ninja?" "You aren't ready for anything other than D-ranks," Naruto Iruka said from his spot next to Hiruzen. "You are fresh out of the academy." "We are ready. You especially know that I am." Iruka stiffened, remembering how Naruto blew Mizuki to bits. Hiruzen sighed. To think he thought he could have kept Team 7 inside Hokage walls for at least a month. He didn't want Hinata getting hurt and Naruto going on a rampage. Well, how does your team feel about this decision, Naruto? Did you consult with them? What if they object? Hiruzen silently prayed that Hinata objected. I agree with Naruto, Sasuke said, looking directly at Hiruzen. D-ranks are annoying. Hinata nodded in agreement, and Hiruzen immediately knew he was beat. What about you, Kakashi? Kakashi shrugged, not really paying attention to the conversation since his eyes were glued in his favorite book. I'm sure they can handle a C-rank mission. Hiruzen sighed. Well then, I have a C-rank right here. To escort a bridge builder to the land of waves, it should satiate your appetite. Sasuke grinned and Hinata smiled happily. She would tell her father once she got back home. But Hokage-sama, they're fresh out of the academy. They can't handle this. Irika protested. Hiruzen ignored his words. Please send in the client. Irika grumbled but still left to get the client. Minutes later, a drunk, gruff-looking man walked in. He had a bottle of sake in his hands and was looking around blearily. Don't tell me these fucking runts are the ones protecting me, he growled before taking a large chug of his drink. Naruto raised a brow. Such obscene language. If you don't want runts escorting, then pay for a B rank. Unless of course you can't afford it, you can forego the mission altogether and escort yourself if you want. All the alcohol seemed to be drained from the man, and no, you'll do. Everyone was a bit amazed by how easily Naruto put the drunken man in his place. Hiruzen cleared his throat. The mission starts today. You all must meet at the village gates in an hour with all necessities. Kakashi walked up and took the scroll from Irika before they all left. Naruto stood between Hinata and Sasuke as they guarded the front of Tazuna. Kakashi took up the back. Hinata was absent-mindedly balancing a leaf on all her fingers and Sasuke was sharpening a kunai. Despite this, they were both still fully aware of their surroundings. They passed two puddles, both that were very familiar to the blonde shinobi, and even if he hadn't remembered, he could still smell the two individuals hidden away. Naruto didn't even have to tell Hinata or Sasuke, they already knew. After all, how could there be a puddle in this hot weather? Not to mention it hadn't rained in days. They waited calmly for the clash. It didn't take long because the second Kakashi passed the puddle, two chains shot out and wrapped tightly around him. The chains constricted and the sound of metal tearing into flesh resounded through the air. Two men appeared from the puddles, both having a single metal gauntlet that connected them by a long shuriken chain. Be calm, Hinata, Naruto whispered to the girl, knowing that unless he said that she would quickly lose her confidence. She nodded. Who are you? Sasuke asked as they all slowly took up defensive positions around Tazuna. Naruto and Hinata took up the rear while Sasuke took up the front. Who are we, you ask? One of them questioned. We are the Demon Brothers. I am Gozu and he is Meizu. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. And what is your purpose? To kill the bridge builder, answered Meizu before they charged, each with a kunai in hand. Back me up? Hinata asked, looking between the two as the Demon Brothers closed in on them. Do you even have to ask? The boys questioned. She giggled. Nope. Naruto and Sasuke dashed to the side, Sasuke bringing Tazuna along with him, while Hinata stayed behind. The Demon Brothers laughed, thinking her teammates had abandoned her. A bunch of genin can't defeat us, they hissed in sync. Hinata smirked, something that surprisingly seemed to fit right in place on her soft features. She threw 6 kunais, each of which lodged itself through a chain and stuck to the ground. It wouldn't have held the brothers long, but they decided not to waste time getting loose and instead detached the chains. The second the chains had detached, Naruto and Sasuke appeared, both moving faster than usual since they had temporarily disabled the weights. The boys moved simultaneously as they elbowed a brother before grabbing a head and smashing it down on their knee. Both brothers were temporarily out of sorts, which was all Hinata needed to paralyze them from the neck down. Oya oya, Hinata giggled, looking down at the Chunin level missing mean splayed across the ground. It seems a bunch of genin took down the mighty Demon Brothers. Good work, team, Kakashi said as he appeared. He hadn't had to interfere at all. He had thought this was the best time to check Team 7's teamwork out in the field. It was surprisingly good. Hinata, I think you're spending too much time with Sasuke, he added to his compliment, which caused Hinata to blush while Sasuke bristled. Naruto's the one who taught her how to smirk. To authenticate Sasuke's statement, Naruto flashed a smirk similar to the one Hinata had shown. Even if I taught her that, I'm pretty sure she got that haughty statement from you. The two boys looked ready to get into a full-blown battle. Hinata was probably the reason it hadn't started as yet, since she timidly stood between the two. Kakashi sighed. Hinata, please go, and retrieved Tazuna. Hinata nodded and disappeared, glad for an excuse to leave the tense air. How are you alive? Meizu asked once he had their attention. I'm positive we killed you. Naruto rolled his eye. It was truly surprising how stupid these two were. Have you never heard of substitution? He asked, pointing to the sliced wood that had taken the place of Kakashi's body. It's amazing how stupid you two are, Sasuke said in disgust. It's even more amazing how fast you went down. Kakashi knelt before the two prisoners. Now you're both going to answer some questions for me, okay? The glare Kakashi gave them was enough to garner a few hasty nods. Hinata arrived with Tazuna to see the Demon Brothers unconscious with Naruto, and Sasuke talking in hushed tones with Kakashi. They looked up when they entered the clearing. Ah, Hinata! You're finally back, Naruto greeted. Unlike Sasuke, who looked grim and tense, Naruto looked fairly calm, much like Kakashi did. Tazuna, Kakashi's voice seemed to cut through the air, and caused the bridge builder to flinch. Care to explain to me why A man called Gato has sent Chunin-level missing Nin for your head? Gato is a criminal, Tazuna hissed with contempt. That doesn't answer my question. He took over the shipping routes of the Land of the Waves, creating a monopoly by isolating us from the outside world. There are no exports or imports, the people are starving. Kakashi didn't look the least bit like he cared. Well, if you knew he would send missing Nin after you, then you should have paid for at least a B-rank mission. Kakashi sighed. I have a bunch of genin under my care, and I'm not about to risk their lives because you wouldn't pay for a higher mission. It's not that I wouldn't, Tazuna said desperately. I couldn't pay for it. I could only afford a C rank. Please, I need the protection. I'm building a bridge that will join the Land of the Waves to the outside world. People will be free to come and go as they want. That is why Gato wants me dead. He doesn't want his monopoly to crumble. Hinata looked at Tazuna curiously. He looked scared out of his wits, desperately trying to stop them from leaving him. It's all right, Tazuna-san, she whispered softly, smiling at the man. We won't leave you. We promise, right boys, sensei? Naruto chuckled. This was going exactly the way he wanted it to. I don't see why you bothered to ask, Hinata. He wrapped his arm around her shoulder. You already promised for us, didn't you? Hinata blushed before looking at Sasuke for his reply. Sasuke crossed his arms. I won't leave you by yourself. Finally she set her innocent, pleading orbs on Kakashi, who really couldn't stand up against her innocent puppy look as Sasuke and Naruto called it. Fine. We'll stay, but only after I've sent a message to the Hokage. Tazuna watched in surprise as Hinata smiled at him in delight. This girl was sweet and kind. It broke his heart to know that soon the world of shinobi would dye her innocence black. Naruto watched Hinata as her eyes browsed the forest. They had stopped for camp a few minutes away from their current position, and Kakashi had ordered them to find firewood while he and Sasuke searched for food. Now Hinata, she looked at him and waited for him to continue. What if a boy told you he's always loved you? She blushed. Well, it depends on who the boy is, she whispered softly. I already love someone, you see, but I don't know what he feels about me. Naruto watched the emotions fly across her face and felt self-loathing at the fact that he had caused her such pain before, and was basically doing it again. What if I told you there's a girl I like in the village? He asked, watching as her face fell. She actually seemed near tears and turned away from him to hide it. How about we drop this conversation, Naruto-kun? We have wood to find to build the fire. Naruto flinched when she added the honorific. She was definitely pissed. No, you have to hear this, Hinata. I don't want to hear. He rested his hand on her shoulder. Please, I want you to hear. She spun around, revealing the tears she had been hiding. I don't want to hear. I don't care. I don't care who she is. Just leave me alone. She let out a broken sob and swiveled on her feet, ready to run away, but finding that she couldn't because Naruto had grabbed her wrist. Let me go, she hissed. I have work to do. Naruto sighed. If only she would listen. Sadly, she seemed to have taken on a sudden stubborn streak. There was only one way to rectify that. With a grin, Naruto pulled her close against his body. She blushed 10 shades. Let me go. T the girl YUL like W wouldn't like this. Oh, contrary to what you say, Hinata, I think she likes it very much. Hinata gasped in realization and if possible got even redder and Nara. Hinata tried to complete a sentence but found herself at a loss of words. The delight in her heart was overflowing and butterflies were dancing in her belly. Now Hinata, do you like me back? He asked softly. He already knew the answer but merely wanted to hear it to reassure himself. In the future it was something Hinata had told him regularly before the Danzo incident. After the whole pain thing he had decided that Hinata was the one that risked her life for him, not Sakura, and therefore Hinata deserved his full-on attention. Hinata smiled softly, brushing her fingers across his cheek, finally finding the courage to speak. Yes, Naruto, I like you like was actually not a good word to define what she felt for him. It was more along the lines of love, but she refused to tell him that until she was ready, and right now she wasn't. Naruto was satisfied with that answer, though he had wanted to hear her say love, not like. To show his joy he dipped his head and captured Hinata's soft lips in a mind-boggling, searing kiss that left her gasping for air. Now Hinata, do you want to be my girlfriend? Her mind couldn't take it. Too many wonderful things were happening at once. Her dreams were finally being realized. Naruto kissed her. He kissed her and asked her to be his girlfriend, prompt Hinata fainting. Hiruzen looked at the small note Pakken had just deposited on his desk. He knew something bad would happen. After all, something always went wrong when Naruto was involved. With a sigh he took up the note and quickly scanned it. His eyes widened after every sentence. Irika. Hiruzen shouted, momentarily forgetting that Irika was next to him filing papers. Yes, Hokage-sama? The Chunin asked. Get me Team 9, this is urgent. Hi Hokage-sama. Irika left, and Hiruzen was left to his own thoughts. What was Kakashi thinking? They were genin. Now he would have to send another genin team to assist them since they were short on chunins at the moment. Most were on missions or preparing for the chunin exams. Oh Kami, don't let anything happen to Hinata. Kakashi sat idly leaned up against a tree. Sasuke was skinning a rabbit while the bridge builder sat in his own little corner. A rustle in the corner had them on alert, but after a few tense seconds Naruto appeared. The blonde had Hinata on his back and a pile of logs in his hands. We got the wood, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi rose a brow. And why, pray tell, is Hinata unconscious? You kissed her, didn't you? Sasuke stated more than asked. The Uchiha was more than aware of his friends' love for one another. Plus, Hinata had grown accustomed around Naruto, and the only thing that could make her faint was a kiss from the blonde. "What's it to you?" Naruto asked as he set Hinata down near a tree and started the fire. "Jealous?" Sasuke scoffed as if, "I just don't want one of the closest things I have to family getting hurt. You better keep her safe, Naruto." Naruto stiffened, something that Sasuke missed but Kakashi certainly caught. The blonde's eyes seemed to darken with an array of emotions after those words, the strongest seeming to be self-loathing. "I'll protect her this time." Naruto's words were so soft that Sasuke didn't hear them, but Kakashi did, and the Exumbu captain couldn't help but wonder what the blonde meant by those words. Hinata woke up with a quiet groan. She had just had the most wonderful dream. Naruto had kissed her and asked her to be his girlfriend. It was truly sad it was only a dream. She looked around, realizing that she had probably been asleep a long time since everyone was currently digging into a piece of meat. Wait a second, how the hell did she even get there? Oh Kami, that wasn't a dream. Then that meant Naruto had asked her to be his girlfriend. Naruto was the first to realize she was awake. After all, he was seated next to her. "Hey Hinata, you're finally up. I saved a piece for you." He came really close to her face and instantly Hinata remembered his kiss. Her face became red and she was on the verge of fainting again. Sasuke of course came to her rescue. He grabbed Naruto by the collar and pulled the blonde away. "She'll faint again if you're so close, Dobe." He deposited Naruto before staring at Hinata. "So is it true? Did he kiss you?" Hinata's blush got even darker and her head started to get dizzy. Naruto said, pushing away Sasuke, "If you ask questions like that then she'll definitely faint." "So Hinata, about the girlfriend question." Kakashi, getting fed up, decided to put an end to the squabbling. "She can answer you after the mission." "Hinata, we have no time for such things. You should all be thinking of how to get out of this alive. Rest assured thought that I won't allow my team to die." Sasuke shrugged and went back to his seat. Naruto on the other hand was glaring harshly at Kakashi. Kakashi had been a great mentor and friend in the future, so Naruto didn't necessarily hate him. But anyone coming between him and Hinata always lost a few points, and Kakashi had definitely lost a few. Kakashi didn't seem to notice the glare Naruto was giving him from under the shadows of his hair. Hinata, being as close as she was, saw the deadly look in Naruto's eyes and hesitantly reached up to tug on his dark pants. The blonde instantly looked at her, his eyes already back to normal. She smiled at him. "It's alright Naruto, my answer won't change." Naruto wasn't actually worried that her answer would change. He knew she loved him. He was just pissed Kakashi had delayed the inevitable. With a sigh he sat down next to her and handed her the piece of meat he had saved. "Eat up Hinata, we have a long way to go." She thanked him softly and nibbled at the food as she watched everyone converse. Naruto was talking about taking her on a date, while Sasuke tried to make the blonde aware that taking her to Ichiraku's wasn't a good enough place for a princess like Hinata. Something that had her blushing. Naruto of course took the insults at Ichiraku's to heart, and that was when the real debate begun. Kakashi was in a tree surveying the area and Tazuna was in his little corner staring at the moon. The old man looked lonely, something that didn't bode well with her. She stood and went over to him, sitting directly in front of him. "Hello Tazuna-san." He started at her like a deer in headlights, most likely wondering why she was being so talkative with him. She giggled. "I'm sorry for the bad hospitality of my friends. They're probably still a bit mad over the lie you told." He nodded numbly. "I truly apologize for that. I have placed your lives in danger." She smiled. "It's alright." "So Tazuna-san, do you have any family?" The man's eyes turned dark. "Yes." "Are they the reason you look so sad?" Tazuna didn't answer. "Everything will be fine Tazuna-san. I'm sure they're alright. So, mind telling me about the job of a bridge builder?" Hinata dipped her finger into the water as they sailed across on a small boat, relishing in the cool feeling. The fog was thick, very thick. Fog was something natural in the land of the waves. "How much longer until we reach shore?" Sasuke asked, staring up at the sky. 5 minutes Tazuna replied. "Naruto, do you think we'll make it out alive?" Hinata asked in a quiet whisper. Only Naruto heard since he was seated next to her. "I won't let anything happen to you Hinata," he whispered back, staring at her with such intensity that she blushed. "I'll protect you, I promise." Hinata sighed. "You say that, but even though I know you're strong, there are people out there that are stronger than you Naruto. I fear that I might lose my life on this mission. I don't want to die." Naruto smiled softly, reaching out to touch her cheek. "Do you trust me?" "Yes," she said without a moment's hesitation. "Then trust me when I say, I will not allow you to die, never again." "Oh Sakura, are you afraid of what Naruto will say to you?" Kimiko asked as they raced through the forest. Hitomi was at the front and Izumi took up the back. They were on their way to the land of the waves as instructed by the Hokage. By the speed they were going they would arrive a day or two after Team 7, and Sakura was more than a tad bit nervous. In all truth and honesty she had been a major bitch when they were in the academy, and in further truth and honesty she was probably still a bit of a bitch, but Kimiko, Hitomi, and Izumi had helped in washing away most of her bitchiness. She had been terrible to Hinata and Naruto, and she feared what they would say when they noticed her team had been sent to assist them. Well, not so much afraid of Hinata, more Naruto. Now don't get her wrong, she was still terribly in love with her Sasuke-kun, but after a bit of insults mixed in with advice from Kimiko, she realized that Hinata was not a threat, and that Sasuke didn't really like clingy girls, so she would try to cease the fangirl obsession. With profuse prayers to Kami, she wished Naruto wouldn't be too harsh, which by the way was not likely. "It's a bit foggy, don't you think?" Hinata asked as they trudged through the forest. heading for Tazuna's home. It's a bit unnatural. Naruto hid a smile at Hinata's perception. She was getting better. Tazuna shook his head in dismissal. Fog is plenty in the land of the waves. Hinata hummed, clearly not satisfied. Stay on alert, just in case, Kakashi advised. A shuffle in the bushes resulted in Sasuke sending a kunai at the area. A small squeak was heard and a rabbit hopped out, sporting a small cut to the leg. Hinata hurried over to small white mammal, whispering apologies to the animal before removing a small handkerchief from her pocket to wrap the wound. Once that was completed, she lifted the animal into her arms. You hurt the harmless rabbit, Sasuke, she admonished. Sasuke scowled. You probably ate its cousin yesterday, so what's the big? Sasuke's voice slowed as he stared at the white rabbit. White? Why is it white? That breed is only white during winter. Kakashi looked at the rabbit in contemplation. It would have to be breed indoors to get that color. Hinata looked down at the shivering rabbit before looking up. She made a single hand sign and whispered Byakugan. She deactivated it quickly, holding her head in pain. The fog, its raw chakra. Immediately following those words, Tazuna was pushed into the triangular shield Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata made with their bodies. The fog got even thicker as a dark chuckle vibrated through the air. It made Hinata shiver in fear. Naruto, on the other hand, was bored out of his mind. It was annoying going through this mission again. The only good thing that might come out of it was him recruiting Zabuza and Haku. They would be beneficial. To think you fools defeated Gozu and Meizu. Kakashi drew a kunai, his gaze steadily searching the area though he could not see. Everyone was alert, well bar Naruto, who was having a hard time stopping himself from yawning. So many things to choose from: the liver, the heart, the… Oh fuck this! Naruto hissed. He broke the formation much to the surprise of everyone and ran through a series of hand signs faster than the eyes could see. Leaf whirlwind. He smirked at the name. He had created this jutsu awfully in the future. Bushibrow had sadly not lived to see it. He slammed his fist into the ground. Wind lashed out from his hand and expanded quickly, dispelling the fog and revealing a stunned Zabuza. The shock quickly left Zabuza's face and a grin tore across his face, though one could only see its outprint in the bandages. Impressive kid, sad that such talent will be wasted. The name's Zabuza Momochi, one of the 7 deadly swordsmen. You. Naruto stared impassively, not opening his mouth, much less answering the question. Zabuza scowled. Well then, Blondie, I guess I'll leave a blank on your grave where your name should be. Naruto scoffed. Zabuza frowned. The battle begun. Hinata barely saw when Zabuza moved. All she knew was that Kakashi had deflected the large sword he had thrown for Naruto's head. The blonde didn't even look surprised. It was as if he knew Kakashi would save him, which would be weird because as far as she knew, Naruto was not a seer. Naruto, get back into formation, Kakashi said, his cold tone not doubt speaking volumes of how reckless he thought Naruto had been. So he's Naruto, Zabuza said with a chuckle. That's a funny name, kid. No wonder you wouldn't say it. Naruto rolled his eyes. Obviously Zabuza was trying to get a rise out of him, which was stupid really. He stepped back into the mini-shield, giving a Hinata a reassuring smile before going back to watching the ensuing battle. They would speak about his recklessness later. The battle went exactly as it did the last time, with all the water clones, the long talks, then the twin water dragons clashing, and finally Kakashi trapped in the large ball of water. With a sigh, Naruto removed a kunai from a seal. He had been hoping that Kakashi wouldn't get trapped this time around. Hinata, remember that thing I gave you? She nodded yes. Did you practice like I said? Once more she nodded. I had father teach me. It was fairly easy. Naruto smirked. Good. Sasuke, weird distractions again. Use what I gave you. Tazuna was baffled. Wait a minute. You're gonna leave me here to die? I need protection. Hinata smiled softly. It's alright, Tazuna-san. I'm still here. Tazuna looked far from reassured but kept his mouth shut when he saw the glares Naruto and Sasuke were sending him. Hinata, count to 5 and then begin. She nodded and watched with a rapidly beating heart as Naruto and Sasuke dashed at Zabuza. Sasuke drew a katana from a seal on his wrist. It was silver with the Uchiha symbol carved into the hilt and a red dragon along its blade. The battle began. Zabuza was using one hand and both feet to fight off the multiple hits from the boys, not loosening his hold on the sphere. With a sigh she began to count. 1. She withdrew a beautiful bow from her right wrist and 6 arrows from her left wrist. The bow was a glistening white with silver flower designs carved into its frame. The arrows followed the same design with exception of the lavender-painted arrowheads. 2. She handed Tazuna the arrows to hold. He made no protest. 3. She took a few calming breaths, then took an arrow from Tazuna and aimed for Zabuza's hand, the one keeping Kakashi captive. 4. She focused her chakra on the tip of the arrow, smiling when she saw the light blue sheen encasing the tip. 5. She shot one and with quick hands grabbed the others and shot them in quick succession. Naruto and Sasuke saw them coming and moved away. Zabuza saw them too late, resulting in an arrow being embedded in his wrist, left shoulder and right thigh. He jumped away in time to dodge the last 3, releasing Kakashi from his water prison. Hinata smiled at her success. Naruto and Sasuke returned to the formation, leaving the battle to Kakashi. Did you see that, Naruto? Sasuke, she asked in excitement. Sasuke ruffled her hair. Yes, Hinata. You did great. Naruto kissed her lightly on her forehead. Absolutely great. Hinata blushed, smiling brightly at both boys. It was during this exchange that Kakashi completely wiped the floor with Zabuza, and of course, like Naruto had predicted in his mind, Haku appeared. Naruto watched Haku walk up the body, Kakashi was watching her with a suspicious gaze, but even if Kakashi felt something was wrong, the man was too exhausted to do anything. Hey Kit, why don't you cut this weed before it grows? Naruto pondered on Kurama's statement as he watched Haku explain that she was a hunter nin. You're right. Hinata, Sasuke, do you trust me? They looked at him like he was the biggest idiot in the world. Right, stupid question. Well, I need you to trust me when I say that the hunter nin is lying. Hinata rolled her eyes before she took out another arrow and aimed directly for the mask-ready boys. She asked. They nodded. She shot. They took off. Haku was forced to drop Zabuza as she dodged the arrow aimed for her head. She spun on spot, looking to see who had the audacity to attack her, only to have to duck as she dodged a katana. What are you doing? This can cause war between our villages. You are interfering in confidential village assignments, Naruto scoffed, using Sasuke's blade as a boost to land a kick against Haku's waist. He wouldn't give her the time to create that blasted ice jutsu hunter nin kill on sight, and I have studied the human anatomy as much as you, so I know that the points you hit only puts Zabuza in a temporary death state. Kakashi looked like he wanted to intervene, but he had no energy left to do anything. He had suspected something was up but did not want to risk a mistake and causing problems between the villages. Obviously his team didn't think along the same lines, plus there was really nothing he could do stop them as Hinata had moved from her guarding position to paralyze Haku. The battle was over. Sasuke smirked. Let's see, we took out the demon brothers, helped to take out Zabuza, and took out a hunter nin. A job well done, I must say. Hinata giggled but nodded all the same. Naruto faced Tazuna. Which way to your house? We need medical treatment for 3. Tazuna looked baffled. But you're all okay. Hinata sighed. Tazuna-san, she started as if speaking to a baby. Kakashi-sensei is suffering from chakra exhaustion. Zabuza-san has multiple wounds and the currently nameless hunter nin needs to rest. What? Tazuna shouted. I'm not carrying those murderers to my house. Now, Naruto was annoyed beyond proportions that this mission was not yet over, so Tazuna being difficult was not at all welcomed. Listen to me, you fool, he hissed, taking on his cold persona. They were ordered to kill you. They had nothing to do with your village being taken over by scum. That was due to the cowardice of the people. Naruto grabbed him by the scruff of his collar. I'm not letting them die. Do you hear me? Tazuna nodded rapidly, fearing for his life. Hinata sighed. Naruto was truly rash. She pried his hand from Tazuna and smiled apologetically at the bridge builder. Please lead the way, Tazuna-san. Tazuna nodded numbly before assisting them in taking up the bodies and making their way to his home. Naruto was no longer paying attention to his surroundings. Instead, he wondered how much work could be done with his network in the time Kakashi was unconscious. They'll be alright, Hyuga-san. You asked me the same thing when you arrived yesterday, Tsunami said as she left the room Kakashi slept in, closing the door quietly behind her. Their injuries seemed to be healing nicely. I must once again apologize for the lack of adequate rooms for you and your remaining companions. Hinata smiled. That's alright, Tsunami-san. I told you the same thing as well yesterday as well. We're trained for these situations and you can call me Hinata if you like. Tsunami smiled. I'd like that very much, Hinata-san. Would you like to help with dinner tonight? We'll make your blonde friend's favorite meal. Hinata blushed as Tsunami gave her a knowing smile. He'd love it even more since it's coming from you, I'm sure. Hinata started to play with her fingers as her shyness kicked in. The boys would never be able to truly get rid of that part of her. They stopped the stuttering and the fainting, but that was as far as they would ever get. Do you know what he likes? Hinata looked at the ground. He likes ramen. Tsunami grinned. Then it's ramen for dinner. Naruto glared at the brat he knew to be Inari. Yesterday the brat had been a bit subdued upon their arrival. Today, though, he seemed to have regained the ability of speech. Damn. Was the boy really this annoying? He and Sasuke had just returned from guarding Tazuna at the bridge and were discussing what to do while Kakashi was immobilized and how to convince Zabuza and Haku not to turn them to mincemeat when they woke up. Then out of nowhere Inari pops up and shouts at them to give up because it was useless to fight and that defeat was their ultimate solution. You better shut up, brat, Naruto hissed. He had liked Inari in the future, at least then he was manageable. This one on the other hand was annoying and wearing on his nerves. If not for the fact that the future Inari had assisted in his and Hinata's escape, then the brat would be dead right now. Why should I? It's the truth. They killed my father. He had the same views as you and look what it got him. Naruto was ready to knock Inari out when Sasuke grabbed the brat by the collar and gave him a good shake. Shut up. That man gave his all to protect what he stood for, and I'm sure he never regretted one moment of it. Naruto's eyes became saucers while Sasuke, I never took you for the type to jump into personal matters. Sasuke let Inari go, and the boy fell to ground with a loud thud. I just wanted him to shut up. Naruto gave the Uchiha a foxy grin. That's what you say? Oh, I've got to tell Hinata this. Sasuke's eyes twitched. I'll kill you. A smirk tugged across Naruto's face. Stop me. Inari watched in utter amazement as Naruto was chased around by Sasuke. The boy simply couldn't understand why they were so carefree. It was unnatural. They could die. He didn't care that they were ninjas. That didn't mean they were impervious to death. He didn't want to see more people die. The boys disappeared in the woods, probably still playing their stupid chase games since he could hear Naruto's boisterous laugh and Sasuke's colorful words. With a sigh he stood and made his way back inside. Tsunami was setting the table and Tazuna was seated in the couch going over a few plans for the bridge. He had just returned from his grueling work of building the bridge. Tsunami looked up when he entered and smiled. Ah, Inari, I was wondering where you were. I was outside trying to talk sense into those fools. Tazuna looked up from his blueprints. You will not disrespect them, Inari. They are here to help us. Inari scowled. You're just as stupid as them. You'll be killed, Gigi. Tsunami sighed. She knew where this was headed and she was not in the mood for their verbal battle. Inari, go and assist Hinata-san in the kitchen, she said, her voice dangerously low. But, now Inari huffed but listened to his mother all the same. He marched past her and entered the small kitchen to see Hinata chopping up a few seasonings to put in the large pot of ramen. She looked up when he entered and smiled softly at him. Hello, Inari-kun. Do you wish to help? Inari scowled. I'm sure you heard my mom, so you know I have no choice. Hinata laughed softly, causing Inari to blush. She was pretty, just like his mother, and just as kind too. Her hair was an odd color that seemed to grab his attention, and the way it framed her face seemed to highlight her eyes. If not for the fact that she was a good few years older than him, then Inari would have probably proposed. I heard what Tsunami-san said, but I will not force you to help me. I can handle myself just fine. The way she said it made him guilty. She was making dinner for them all. The least he should do was assist. He crossed his arms, trying to look aloof. What do you need help with? The smile on Hinata's face was worth it, he decided. Tsunami-san just placed some fried vegetables in the bowl over there. She pointed at the large bowl. Throw them in the pot of soup, and then place the pot in the fridge. Tsunami-san thought marinated vegetables would go well as a side dish. Inari did as instructed. He got a small burn because he literally threw the vegetables in the pot, resulting in the hot soup splashing on his hand, but other than that he completed his job without worry. Anything else you need help with? He asked. Hinata looked ready to reply when Tsunami entered and started on the chicken katsu. No, everything is alright, Inari-kun. I have enough help now. Inari sighed. Now what would he do? There was literally nothing to do. He already went into town. His grandfather was a bore and those stupid boy ninjas were still playing chase outside. Hinata seemed to notice his dilemma, and with a sigh she grabbed his hand before he could leave. I'm making kushidango for dessert. Care to help? Tsunami held back a grin as she watched Naruto practically drool over the table when he saw the food. Hinata was sitting quietly next to him and twiddling her fingers as she blushed. Ramen? Seriously? Yeah, and it smells great. He grabbed his chopsticks and looked ready to dig in when Sasuke glared at him from the corner of his eyes. What? Naruto asked, confused as to why he was being glared at. What do you say before you start eating dough? Naruto spent a few seconds contemplating the question. Inari watched him in shock. He wasn't really thinking about the answer, was he? A light bulb went off in Naruto's head and he quickly clasped his hands. Itadakimasu. He wasted no time before digging in. He froze the second he took a bit of the noodles. Hinata looked at him nervously. Didn't he like it? She had tried her own secret recipe, something she had been trying to master since finding out his favorite food. Tsunami looked on in worry. Hinata would no doubt break down if Naruto did not like it. What he said next surprised both women. Nay, Hinata, did you make this? This was truly a surprise to both women since they had not told him who had done the cooking. The boys had merely entered the house to find food on the table. Hinata stared at him under her lidded eyes. Hi, is it not to your liking? Naruto didn't answer her immediately because he was reliving a memory, one he was all too happy to remember. How is it, Naruto? Hinata asked, watching Naruto take a large gulp of her homemade ramen. They were seated on a large cloth that she had set up on a hill that overlooked Konoha. The village was still in bits and pieces, but the near end of the war had filled people with morale and the reconstruction was coming along well. Naruto said nothing. Instead he had his head lowered, resulting in her being unable to see his expression. Is it not to your liking? She asked timidly. Maybe it had been a bit bold of her to drag him away from his training with Kakashi, but he looked tired, and although he said he would give their relationship a chance after the war, she felt it was her obligation as his future girlfriend to ensure he was healthy. Before she could further contemplate what was wrong, Naruto's hand shot up and in a flash he had his lips locked tightly around hers. Her moment of shock quickly melted away, and she happily wrapped her arms around his neck as she deepened the kiss. It felt like she was on a high as her body buzzed with one. Nay, Hinata, I don't think I can wait until after the war, Naruto whispered as he trailed his lips down her neck. Hinata giggled. All this over food? She asked as she toyed with his hair. Naruto stopped and cupped her face. His eyes held a tone of seriousness as he stared at her. Don't get me wrong, Hinata. The food was great, but what I love isn't the food. What I love is the fact that you made it for me. Hinata blushed. You looked worn out, so I thought you might need a break, and I was jealous because Sakura was making you soldier pills. Naruto grinned, showing off his foxy grin at her brain in a whirl. No need to be jealous, Hinata, you're all I need. Naruto gave Hinata his foxy grin as he ate the familiar food. It tastes great, Hinata. Happiness washed across Hinata's face as she started on her own meal. Tsunami let out a breath of relief. Thank God that was what he wanted to say. Then again she wanted to know how he knew it was Hinata who made it. Hinata pulled back on her bow and released the arrow. It whizzed through the air and landed in the dead center of the wooden target a few feet away. Sasuke had set it up this morning with Naruto, and after dinner they had showed it to her. It was in the forest so that she could focus. Nature always seemed to calm her mind. Both boys were currently relaxing in the trees, chatting about something she cared not to engage in. It was a few minutes after 10, so she decided to get in a few more shots before retiring to sleep. Suddenly both boys were on her either side, both with a kunai in hand and looking alert. While maybe only Sasuke looked alert, Naruto just looked bored. He glanced at her, and she nodded to assure him she knew what to do. Byakugan, she whispered. Though she had improved vastly, she still could not see a far distance with her eyes, so she was not surprised when no one appeared in her sight immediately. How Naruto knew someone was coming was beyond her. Finally, after a few tense minutes, she spotted 4 chakra signatures, 4 similar chakra signatures. She groaned when she realized who it was and shut off her Byakugan. Naruto and Sasuke looked at her in curiosity. What is it? Sasuke asked. He had relaxed from his tense stance because if Hinata didn't find whoever it was as a threat, then they probably weren't a threat. Hinata sighed in dismay before looking at Naruto, who now had his hands behind his head and was staring at the skies. It's Team 9. Sasuke shivered and quickly pivoted on his toes. You guys meet them. I'm going to check on Kakashi-sensei. He disappeared before anything could be said, and Hinata was left glaring at the spot he had vacated. Seems like the old man didn't think we could handle it, Naruto hissed. Hinata stared at him, surprised at his icy tone. Why can't that fool learn to mind his own business? Naruto, you need to show respect for the Hokage. I must say I hate that he sent Team 9, but we need all the help we can get, Hinata admonished. Naruto rolled his eyes. Trust me when I say, we do not need more baggage. Hinata sighed. Just please be polite, Naruto. When Hitomi-sensei arrives, he'll immediately be in charge because Kakashi-sensei is out of commission at the moment. He didn't seem to be listening to her, so she boldly cupped his face and turned him to look directly at her. Please, Naruto, you must be polite. Damn. How could he say no to her cute puppy face? I'll try, Hinata. She smiled at him in gratitude, though she noted he didn't really say yes or no. Hinata let him go before going back to looking straight ahead in the direction she knew Team 9 would arrive from. Sasuke ran away from Sakura, didn't he? She asked as Team 9 came into view. Naruto chuckled. Yes, he did. Sasuke entered the quaint house and quickly made his way to the quest rooms. Everyone was asleep at this hour. The only reason he got in was because Tsunami left the back door open for them. He momentarily paused to ponder what room Kakashi had been placed in again. In all truth, he didn't feel like checking up on Kakashi at all. Sakura was nuisance though, and therefore he wanted to have as little contact with her as possible. He gave up trying to remember which room it was and simply entered the one to his immediate right. He switched on the lights and was surprised to see the female Hunterine. The real shocker though was the fact that she was standing next to her bed and touching the square chakra barrier that ranged around the bed. Naruto had set them up with a few of his seals. She had her back turned to him so he couldn't see her expression. He felt her malice though. Are you the one who has trapped me here? She asked in a soft bell-like voice, turning to face him. Sasuke was a bit surprised at her pretty voice. When she had attacked them it had been deeper, rougher. Probably because she was trying to hide the fact that she was a girl, whereas Zabuza-sama. She asked this with a sharp edge to her voice. No doubt at this point she would have attacked him if she could. Sasuke calmly took a seat in the chair near her bed, deciding to stay here instead of with Kakashi. Zabuza is another room. If you're awake then I'm sure he is as well, Sasuke said offhandedly, though I doubt he could break out. His seals are 10 times as strong as yours. She glowered darkly at him. I must say, you are quite skilled with Fuinjutsu. Rest assured though, Zabuza-sama is not one to be trifled with. He said nothing. Instead he looked at her in curiosity. Is he your father or something? He asked, honestly curious. If he is, then it's a good thing you inherited your looks from your mother. You insolent child, how dare you insult Zabuza-sama? Sasuke raised a brow. I'm sure we aren't that far apart in age, so it's a bit hypocritical for you to call me a child. A smug look washed over his face when he saw the deadly glare she sent him. When I get out of here you will be the first one I kill. Sasuke chuckled. I honestly don't know why Naruto kept you alive, but I'm sure it'll be beneficial. He rarely does anything that doesn't benefit him or Hinata. He stood, resting his hands in his pockets. Since you're up, I'm sure you're hungry. I'll get you something to eat. Haku watched him in suspicion. Why are you being so nice? I almost killed your friends and I have a mission to kill the bridge builder. You should let me starve. Sasuke shrugged. Because Naruto wants you alive. Haku frowned. You are a foolish boy. Sasuke smirked. I have name, you know it's Sasuke Uchiha. Haku looked a bit surprised that he had revealed his name to a stranger. She wasn't surprised at his last name. It was quite obvious by the clan symbol on his shirt. She decided to rile him up a bit as revenge for insulting Zabuza. That stupid cursed clan. She saw him tense and smiled in smug delight. You're the last one, correct? I heard everyone else was brutally murdered. He glared at her. How foolish am I? She asked herself as she watched Sasuke storm from the room, slamming the door shut behind him. Here she was insulting him over something that had occurred to her as well. She quickly discarded the remorse she felt. Zabuza would be angry if he knew she had ever felt that way about insulting someone. With a sigh she sat on the bed, her back turned to the door as she stared out the window at the glowing moon. She didn't want to escape, she realized. If what Sasuke said was true, then Zabuza was safe and probably simply throwing a tantrum at being locked up. As long as Zabuza was safe, then she was okay. She hadn't trusted Gato in the first place, and these odd genin had provided her with a way out of the situation. She was a bit surprised when she heard the door open again. She glanced backwards and nearly choked on air. She really hadn't expected the Uchiha to return after her blatant disrespect. He carried a tray in his hand with food. She felt her stomach growl when the scent wafted over to her. She said nothing as he walked over and simply walked through the barrier. Apparently it didn't stop other persons other than her from getting through. He laid the tray on the small table next to the bed, and then promptly turned to leave. He was right at the door when the guilt finally consumed her. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, she whispered, looking at the ground since she couldn't seem to find the courage to look at his face. The hate he probably had there was something she did not want to see. She had gotten enough of that in her life. What's your name? His voice was cold and indifferent. Haku. After a few seconds of silence, Haku felt the bed sink. She looked around and was stunned to see Sasuke lounging lazily on the bed. He looked up at her, then gestured to the food. Well, Haku, I suggest you take as little time as you can eating. Haku was so stunned she blurted the first thing that came to her mind. Why? Sasuke smirked. Why what? Why I'm in your bed, or why I said eat slowly. Haku glowered. You know what I mean. Well, if you're wondering why I'm not afraid of you stabbing me to death with those chopsticks, then I guess I should inform you that the seal protects anyone inside aside from you, so if you try to harm me, you'll find 1000 volts of electricity running through your body. He gave her a look, as if daring her to try just so he could see her electrocuted. About the food, there's an annoying insect outside that constantly bugs me and I would like to stay as far away from it for as long as I can. Haku looked at the barrier with newfound respect, completely disregarding what he had said about some insect. How long did it take you make these seals? Sasuke looked at her like she had grown another head. Do I look like I would spend my time thinking up seals? He asked her incredulously. From his reply she figured he wasn't the one who had accomplished such a seal. Then who did? He scoffed. Naruto. Ah, she said as the face flashed through her mind. That annoying blonde friend of yours. He is truly formidable. Sasuke examined her for a few seconds. I meant to ask this for a while now, but why aren't you trying to murder me and somehow get out? Haku rolled her eyes. Well, aside from the whole death by electrocution thing, I didn't want to work for Gato in the first place. He is a despicable man, but I am loyal to Zabuza-sama, and if he chooses to follow Gato, then I must comply. So you're using this situation as a scapegoat? Yes. Sasuke smirked. Smart. Sakura landed next to Kimiko and immediately began to feel like disappearing. Naruto was giving her a dark stare. She took comfort in the fact that Hinata was smiling kindly at her. She was a bit jealous of the girl because she really looked like a clan heir. Hinata stood straight with her hands folded in front as she bowed slightly to Hitomi. Hello, Hitomi-sensei, she said, radiating innocence. Maybe that was how she got Naruto and Sasuke wrapped around her finger. Hitomi smiled. Hello, Hinata-chan. The Hokage sent us to give assistance. Since I don't see Kakashi anywhere, I'm assuming he was correct in sending us. We had a run-in with the demon brothers. Zabuza Momochi and another ninja. Kakashi-sensei is suffering from chakra exhaustion and is resting in the client's home. Hinata sounded completely businesslike, which made Sakura even more jealous. How could Hinata be so calm in this situation? Hitomi looked a bit surprised. A lot has happened. Then I am assuming that Zabuza is no longer a problem along with the others. Hinata looked ready to reply when Naruto stepped forward. They are not dead, they are actually recuperating in the client's house. What? Sakura found herself shouting. Are you crazy, Naruto? They could kill him. Before she could say any more, Kimiko clapped a hand over her mouth. Do you really want them to like you? Kimiko asked in a harsh whisper. Keep quiet. It was truly a good thing Kimiko had jumped in because Naruto was currently fingering a kunai in his hand. Hitomi yawned. As long as they don't pose a problem, then I could care less about them. Our job is to protect the builder, not look for trouble. We'll set up camp out here with you and then tomorrow I'll speak with the client. Sakura glowered. She hated Hitomi's attitude. He truly was a lazy man. He loved to sleep, and during their training sessions 90% of the times he would tell them what to do and then fall asleep without even trying to supervise them. Lazy bastard. Without another word, Hitomi walked over to a tree and quickly fell asleep laying against it. Sakura truly wondered how he could fall asleep so quickly. It was disturbing. Kimiko walked over to Hinata and promptly gave the girl a hard slap to the back. Hey Hinata. How's life? Hinata had a pained expression on her face. No doubt Kimiko had placed a bit too much power into the hit. I know we didn't really speak in class, but I would still like to give it a shot at being your friend. Hinata gave Kimiko a pained smile, while Naruto glared murderously. I think you hit her a bit too hard, he practically growled. Kimiko either didn't notice the glare or completely ignored it. Don't worry yourself over that, Naruto. Hinata's a big girl, right Hinata? Hi, so let's introduce ourselves. Even if we were in the same class, introductions are always in order, Hinata said, giving them all a small smile. It made Sakura wonder why she ever hated the girl. She was just too nice. Izumi Chitsu. Sakura almost screamed in surprise. She had completely forgotten about Izumi. He was so quiet it was easy to forget him. She felt a bit disappointed in herself since he was right next to her, and she hadn't realized if this had been a battle she would be dead. Kimiko Minabe. Kimiko made a peace sign and grinned. Naruto likened her to his past self. You already know me, Sakura said, which rewarded her with a glare curtsy of Naruto. Great to meet you. You already know me, Naruto sneered. Hinata sighed. This was going to turn into a catastrophe. Sakura-san, Naruto is being sarcastic. Please just say your name. Sakura sighed. Since Hinata asked in such a kind tone, it made it hard to refuse. Sakura Haruno. Hinata smiled. Hinata Hyuga. Naruto Uzumaki. Where's Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked, looking around for her obsession. Naruto smirked. He ran away so he wouldn't have to deal with you. Hinata promptly grabbed and tugged on Naruto's eerie tie. Hinata, he shouted in pain, pouting up at the innocent face he so loved. Did you have to pull so hard? Hinata disregarded him and merely walked over to the horror-stricken Pinkette. Sakura looked like the world was coming to an end. Hinata placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder and gave her a small smile before speaking. He just went to check up on Kakashi-sensei. You'll see him later. Naruto watched the interaction with a dark gaze. Hinata was too nice for her own good. That pink-haired bitch was ugly to the core and should not be trusted. The fact that she didn't betray them until years in the future mattered not to him. He still had to exact revenge on the bitch. He turned his gaze to Izumi, whom seemed to be having a staring contest with the moon. The boy could be an asset, and so could Kimiko and maybe her twin as well. He wanted to get as many allies as he could for his cause. Now it was just a means of persuasion. He would have to begin early too, because neither Danzo nor Root would be easily taken down. So Kimiko, you and Mimiko live alone, correct? He asked the hyperactive girl beside him. Kimiko nodded before staring sadly at the ground. Our parents were a part of Umbu and died while on a mission. Naruto looked at her in fake sympathy. In all truth, he could care less if her parents were dead or not. So you've been living at the orphanage for all that time? Kimiko shook her head. The Hokage has us in an apartment, and he gives us weekly allowance. So they were the same as him then. He does the same thing for me. I live in the apartment, that's a mile from the Yamanaka flower shop. Really? Kimiko gasped in surprise. That's where I live. Izumi lives there as well. Due to her outburst, everyone began to listen in on her conversation, well, bar Hitomi, who was sleeping, and Izumi, who thought the moon was more entertaining. Well, that's surprising, don't you think, Kurama? Quite, though this will make it easier to win them over. Which room do you stay in? Kimiko asked in excitement. The only friend she had at that old place was Izumi. Finally, she had someone else to talk with. Room 203. Oh, that's upstairs. I live in room 104 and Izumi in room 108. Hey Kurama, do you think I could torture them into admission? Most likely, but Hinata wouldn't be very proud of you for that. Damn. Kimiko squealed in delight. When we return home, then you should come over whenever you can. A scowl appeared on Hinata's face for a split second before she quickly masked her emotions. What the hell did Kimiko think she was doing? How dare she invite Naruto to her room? I'm afraid Naruto has a lot of things doing, Kimiko-san. He probably won't be able to make it, she said with a forced smile. Naruto smirked. Nah, I'm sure I can slip in a little time for Kimiko. This time Hinata wasn't able to hold back her scowl, and she glared ferociously at Naruto. The glare had Kimiko shaking and actually gained Izumi's fleeting attention. Sakura had already backed away from the scary Hyuga heiress. To think she thought Hinata was a pushover. Surely you won't allow a girl into your room, Naruto, at least someone that's not me. It's no problem, Hinata. Fine then, Hinata hissed. Do whatever you feel like. I'm going for a walk. She pivoted on her feet and quickly disappeared. Naruto chuckled and everyone stared at him like he had lost it. What's so funny? She's gone mad, Kimiko shouted. Nothing, Naruto said before turning in the direction Hinata had gone. I'm going to find her. You guys can settle down or something. Hey Naruto, Hinata, hold on a second. The couple stopped in the middle of the rebuilding streets of Konoha and turned to see Ino running up to them. Thank God I finally found you, Ino shouted in relief. Me? They both asked at the same time. Ino rolled her eyes. No, I meant you, Naruto. When I came over to your apartment last week, I think one of my hairpins fell off. Can I come over and look for it? Naruto barely realized that Hinata had gone as stiff as a board next to him. His apartment had been one of the few buildings already repaired. Sure, Naruto is busy. He'll give it back tomorrow. Hinata hastily cut him off. We're on our way to training. Naruto stared at the pale-eyed heiress in confusion. Hinata, I'm not busy. I'm actually coming from training. You know this. Hinata scowled, no doubt angry that he had dared to retort. Ino realized what was happening and hastened to fix the situation. It's okay, Naruto. You can give it to me tomorrow. Naruto grinned, completely oblivious to the situation. Nah, it's alright, Ino. Come on over. Hinata and I were headed there anyways. I'm going home, Hinata hissed, her eyes blazing. Do whatever you like. She stormed off, leaving a very confused Naruto and a sighing Ino. Naruto stifled a laugh at the memory. At that time he hadn't a clue what had happened. Only Ino almost bashing his head into the ground as she explained how exactly Hinata felt about inviting another woman to his apartment probably made her feel. Only after 3 days of desperate pleading did Hinata finally forgive him. Damn, maybe making the younger version jealous wasn't such a good thing. Hopefully she doesn't react as badly. He certainly couldn't afford for her to ignore him for 3 days. He found her on the limb of a tree, her knees pulled close to her chest and her face tucked into her arms. He heard her silent sobs and immediately knew that making her jealous probably wasn't such a good idea at this point. In the future she had spit curses at him and constantly hit him after the ordeal, but this wasn't the future, and this Hinata was still soft-hearted. Way to go, idiot. Now she's crying. What were you thinking? Oh, shut up, Kurama. I'll fix this. You had better. I like that little one. Naruto landed in front of her and slowly reached for her. This proved to be futile since she batted away his hand. Don't touch me, she whispered. Leave me alone. Go back to Kimiko. Naruto sighed in frustration. Don't be stupid, Hinata. Why would I go back to her if you're crying? Because obviously you like her. When we get back you'll be at each other's room 24/7. Naruto raised a brow. Do you hear yourself, Hinata? Kimiko and I just met. Why would I like her? He grabbed her arm and quickly pulled her up. She was so surprised by the action that she stumbled right into his chest. He wrapped his hands around her, relishing the feeling of her in his arms. I'm sorry, Hinata. I wanted to get you jealous to see how you would react. She stiffened even more in his arms. I just wanted to see if you really liked me. If you didn't, you wouldn't have reacted like that. I'm sorry. She started to push against him in protest. Do I look like a game to you, Naruto? She asked, or more like sob. How could you do that? It hurt. How do you think I felt? Do you really love me? Of course I do, never question that. He held her tighter. I'm sorry for what I did. I don't want to hear that, she shouted harshly, finally pulling away from him and stumbling back against the tree. I don't want go hear it. You really screwed up, Kit. Naruto ignored him and instead jumped to the ground, where he promptly fell to his knees and held his head in shame. Something he would never do in front of anyone, but Hinata wasn't just anyone. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Everything was silent for a while and Naruto refused to look up. Seconds turned to minutes, then finally an hour had passed, but he never moved. Then finally he could smell her fragrant lilac perfume and feel her soft hands against his face. He looked up to see her smiling down at him. Promise to never do that again. I promise. Sakura sat cuddled into herself. She was the only one still awake as she was waiting on her Sasuke to arrive. She stared at the burning flames with determination. She would stay awake for as long as she could just so she could speak to him. Sadly, poor Sakura didn't know that Sasuke wasn't coming. Naruto went in search of Sasuke the next day. He had to admit he was more than a bit surprised when he found the Uchiha curled up one side of Haku's bed. They were both sound asleep. Well, isn't this a cute sight? He shouted. Both occupants flew to their feet. Sasuke had a kunai in hand while Haku materialized an ice Sinan. When both realized there was no immediate danger, they relaxed. You're annoying, Dobe, Sasuke hissed before going back to his comfortable position on the bed. Haku studied the blonde. You must be Naruto. I respect the work you've done here. These seals are very adept. Minus I'm Haku, she said politely, not at all sounding like she was being held prisoner. Naruto grinned. Pleasure finally knowing your name, Haku. You put up a good fight. He walked through the barrier and grabbed Sasuke by the collar before promptly pulling him out. I'd love to stay and chat, but Sasuke and I have to get breakfast. Yours will be sent up. Haku's face momentarily fell before she hid it behind an impassive mask. Okay. I hope we can speak later. Naruto caught her expression and felt a bit of sympathy for her. Sasuke was probably the only person her age she had spoken to in years. Her female contact had probably been non-existent as well. He paused to measure the pros and cons of what was currently running through his head. He could release her and gain her trust, or leave her to revel in despair. After a few seconds he removed an ink and brush from a seal on his arm. Promise you'll behave, and I'll place a seal on you to temporarily restrict your flow of chakra so you won't be able to use any jutsus. Surprise flitted across her face, and she nodded eagerly. I'll behave. I promise. Naruto chuckled before quickly painting a small complicated seal at the base of Haku's neck. He then applied a bit of chakra to it, and watched it glow red before going back to its black color. Okay. We're all set, let's go. I can't leave the barrier. Oh yeah, he drew another seal on the barrier and watched it shatter to pieces. Let's go. Hinata smiled when she saw the fake Hunter Nin enter behind Sasuke and Naruto. She looked shy. No doubt being in a room with so many unknown ninjas was making her uncomfortable. They were all in the dining room eating breakfast and chattering away, minus while Kimiko was the one chattering. Sakura was sulking over not seeing Sasuke. Izumi hadn't opened his mouth since last night, and Hitomi was asleep in the couch. When everyone focused their eyes on them, she saw the Hunter Nin fidget. Sakura was the first to speak. Sasuke-kun. Hinata watched in utter disbelief as the pinkette managed to leap across the table with surprising and latch herself onto Sasuke's arm. Sasuke flinched. Sasuke-kun, I've been waiting all night for you. Sakura gushed with glittering eyes. She turned her attention at Haku. What kind of a bug are you, and why are you so close to my Sasuke-kun? The glittering eyes became ablaze with jealousy. Naruto gently grabbed Haku and pulled her to a free seat at the table. This is Haku. She's the fake Hunter Nin. Sakura gasped. Kimiko gaped. Hitomi woke up and Izumi did nothing. He was too preoccupied ensuring his food was chewed properly. Hello Haku, I'm Hinata. It's nice to see you without that mask on, Hinata said, taking the initiative to speak since everyone else seemed to have lost the ability to. She held out a hand that Haku took. Hello Hinata-san. Are you kidding me? Sakura shouted, momentarily loosening her hold, which allowed Sasuke to escape and find a seat at the table next to Hinata. You guys said it took all three of you to stop her. She's strong. She could easily run away or worse, kill one of us. Haku gave Sakura an annoyed glance. I assure you that I will do no such thing. I would never abandon Zabuza-sama. Plus, Naruto-san placed a chakra seal on me. Sakura didn't look convinced. She was the only one though. Hitomi had dozed back off and Kimiko, who was seated next to Haku, was touching the girl's hair reverently. I love your hair, Kimiko said. Haku blushed. Thank you, Kimiko-san. Kimiko scowled. Don't add on that stupid honorific. That goes for you too, Hinata. I'll call you Haku, so you call me Kimiko minus that's Izumi, Sakura, our sensei Hitomi, Tsunami, Bakinari and Tazuna-san. You know everyone else. Haku nodded at everyone Kimiko pointed at. Inari glared at Kimiko when she called him an idiot. They didn't get along even though they had just met. Kimiko, please do not tease Inari-kun, Hinata said, earning a grateful look from Inari and a pout from Kimiko, though the girl looked a bit happy that Hinata had dropped the sand from her name. Now you're no fun, Hinata. Hinata ignored her and gave Haku a smile. You can drop the honorific for me as well. Let's get along, Haku. Haku looked at the two girls smiling at her, and could not understand how they could talk to her so easily and act so calm after she had tried to kill some of the people in the room. Sasuke she could understand. He knew she wouldn't be able to hurt him, but they didn't. Even without chakra she was formidable, and they knew it, yet still they were willing to get along. Being with Zabuza hindered her interaction with people, so she had neither friends her age nor did she even know anyone her age minus now she did minus maybe this prison thing wasn't so bad. An involuntary smile lit up her face. I'd like that very much. Before the girls could bond a bit more, Hitomi rose from his seat, gaining everyone's attention. I'm planning on getting in a bit of training with all of you before the inevitable battle with Gato begins, he yawned, so I've created a roster for the weeks following the bridge building. Every day 2 of you will be guarding Tazuna while I train the others, understood? They all nodded. Sakura raised her hand. What kind of training, Hitomi-sensei? You'll find out later. Today Sasuke and Izumi are on guard duty. He gave each boy a sharp look, and when he met no resistance he promptly took back up his previous seat and quickly dozed off. Is he always like that? Haku asked. Kimiko scowled sadly. Yes. In the dark encasing of Gato's office stood 6 figures. They all stood tall except for one that seemed to be hunched over, its forelimbs unnaturally longer than the rest of its body and laying limp on the ground. We require a hefty sum of money for our services, Gato, the tallest figure, said, its dark purple eyes seemingly glowing in the dark. I'll pay you triple what I paid Zabuza, Gato said from behind his desk, taking out 3 suitcases to show he was not joking. The second figure laughed. Red hair could be seen shaking as the individual tried to stop Shichichi. To think the great demon of the mist lost to a bunch of genin and some jounin. Pathetic, don't you, Miyu-chan? We think you are stupid if you underestimate the enemy. This came from the shortest of the 6 figures. A gurgling sound came from the long-limbed figure next to the short individual. Yes, you are correct. He makes our head hurt. Gato scowled. I'm not paying you lot to bicker. I want them all dead. The purple-eyed figure chuckled. Worry not, Gato. The Fibu Akuma, 1, never leaves a job undone. Good, because I'm not paying for failure. Okay, Sasuke and Izumi are on guard duty for Tazuna, so the rest of you are with me for training, Hitomi said from his spot in a tree. They were all in the forest close to where they set up camp. I doubt Gato will stop his pursuit. He'll get more people, and I need you all to improve so that you don't die in under 5 seconds. What'll we be doing, sensei? Sakura asked. She was being ostracized by the small group. Hinata, Haku, and Kimiko stuck together, and until she apologized to the Sasuke stealing bitch, they weren't speaking to her. Her only other choice of conversation would be Naruto, and from the heated glare he kept sending her, she would not be welcomed. We'll be doing a bit of chakra control. He jumped into another tree. It's pretty simple, really. All you have to do is walk up the tree. I just came from using chakra only. They waited for a few minutes, all staring at Hitomi. Naruto and Hinata didn't really need to hear the explanation, but they were waiting on him to tell the others. When he still said nothing, Haku decided to speak. Aren't you going to show them how it's done? Hitomi looked down at them. They're ninjas. Critical thinking is a must. Don't help them. Let them figure it out themselves. Kimiko went red in the face. Baka, Hitomi-sensei. She screamed up at him. Hitomi acted as if he didn't hear and continued with this nap. Hinata looked at Naruto, and after a brief nod from him she turned to Kimiko. I'll help you. Kimiko, being from a clan, ensures I know some chakra control. Hinata bit her lip as she tried to find a simple way to explain. Well, basically, chakra can be found at any point in your body. Kimiko nodded slowly, not really getting where this was going. Therefore, if you focus hard enough you can channel the chakra in your legs to the soles of your feet. A light bulb seemed to go off in Kimiko's head. She wasn't as dumb as some people thought. A grin tore across her face before she ran over to the tree and paused for a few seconds before running up. She only made it 4 steps before she fell down. She did well though, especially for her first try. Sakura stood to the side, watching as this occurred. She hadn't heard Hinata's explanation, but it must have been good if Kimiko was getting this tree walking business. It took an entire 2 hours for Kimiko to reach the top of the tree. After Kimiko, Hinata went, and so did Naruto. Now it was only Sakura left. She tried, but fell immediately. Then she tried a few more times and ended up in the same heap. She was aware they were watching her, probably laughing their faces off at her failure. This was so embarrassing. She could do this. She would make them eat their words. No one would tease her about her forehead again. Her mother wouldn't shout at her. She would get it. She ran, and out of sheer will alone, managed to make it halfway before slipping. She braced herself for the pain but was quite surprised when she felt none. She opened her eyes and saw Haku peering at her worriedly. Are you okay, Sakura-chan? Hinata asked. Kimiko's face popped up as well. Don't do that again. Sakura realized they had all joined hands and caught her, for which she was grateful. She didn't wish for another bruise. They let her down, and immediately Sakura bent forward. I'm sorry for all the mean things I've said to you all. Please forgive me. Apologizing was definitely a show of her maturity. Hinata smiled softly. We accept, Sakura-chan. Now, how about I tell you the secret to getting up? Naruto watched all of this with a scowl. That bitch should have broken a few bones, he hissed to Kurama. Naruto, you have already changed the future far more than you think. Sakura may not betray you this time. People like her don't change. Would you rather suffer Hinata's wrath if you harm Sakura? She'll thank me someday. Sakura is loyal to Sasuke. His death caused her betrayal if Sasuke is alive. Naruto got the drift of what Kurama was saying and fought to hide his feral grin. Sakura might not be so useless after all. He still hated her though. Kakashi looked out through his bedroom window, watching the sky slowly turn a pale pink. Hitomi had left a long time ago with the kids and had yet to come back, but he wasn't worried. Hitomi wasn't an exambu for nothing. After a few more seconds of blissful relaxation he stood and left his room. He entered the room directly opposite to his. Inside was Zabuza. The demon of the mist was inspecting the barrier that held him captive. He looked up when Kakashi entered. Well, if it isn't the copycat. Nice to see you too, Zabuza. Kakashi didn't get close to the barrier, instead he stayed far away from it since he didn't know what it did. He walked over to the windowsill and sat down. The view from here was better. He could catch glimpses of the village. Zabuza seemed to finally give up and faced Kakashi. His arms crossed. Where's Haku? If you're talking about that fake hunter Nin, she's in the forest with some genin and a jounin. Zabuza growled with one hair on her head. Kakashi cut him off just to say, she was probably in a barrier like yours. But since she's so well behaved, they've decided to let her out. You should behave as well if you wish to move. Zabuza chuckled. The second I find a way out of this, I'm tearing off that bridge builder's head. Kakashi stopped gazing outside and faced Zabuza. You're not so smart, are you? You've been in here about 4 or 5 days, and if I'm not mistaken, Gato's already paid you. Zabuza said nothing. You haven't been back. If I was him, I'd think you failed and I'd hire someone else. What's the point of continuing? You already have the money. Zabuza scowled. I don't leave jobs unfinished. Kakashi went back to staring at that girl, Haku. She seemed happy when I saw her with the girls. He glanced back for a second. Holding Zabuza's gaze, she was laughing. Has she laughed recently? Zabuza looked away. She doesn't need friends. Maybe you should speak to her before you go deciding things for her. I saved her life. I can make any decisions about her life I want. Kakashi stood, throwing Zabuza a sympathizing look as he turned to leave. Keep thinking like that, and you might just lose her. The next day, Hinata and Kimiko were gone, leaving Sakura with only Haku as a girl companion. She could have tried nagging Sasuke, but the Uchiha was sticking close to Naruto, and Naruto was scary. They followed behind Hitomi as he led them to the same area as yesterday. Nay, Haku, you have really pretty hair. I think it would look pretty if you tried putting it in a bun or even letting it out, Sakura said, trying to start a conversation. She still wasn't all that comfortable around Haku. Haku looked thoughtful. If you want, I could let you do it later. I've never had anyone do my hair before. Sakura smiled. Sure. Or we can pick some flowers later. They would look so pretty in your hair. We can do Hinata's and Kimiko's as well. It'll be fun. They stopped talking when they reached the clearing and Hitomi faced them. Sasuke, you and Izumi will be doing the tree climbing training I was putting the others through yesterday. While Sakura and Naruto will try balancing a leaf on their forehead while walking up this tree, he said before hopping into his favorite tree to nap. Hinata had already explained all about the flow of chakra, so Sakura simply followed her instructions. It took a while, but Sakura finally managed to reach the top after a whole 3 hours. Naruto had explained the concept to Izumi, who had gotten the tree climbing faster than his teammate. He actually got it in the first hour. It took him an additional 3 to get it with the leaf though. As expected, Naruto and Sasuke went through quite fast. They spent most of the time the others were training speaking to Haku. The girl had a cool Kekii Genkai. Pun not intended. Nay, Hitomi-sensei, can Haku and I go pick some flowers? Sakura shouted up at the man. When he waved in confirmation, they took off. I think this was the first time Sakura hasn't nagged me, Sasuke said contemplatively. How does it feel? Izumi asked, truly curious. Great. I hope it stays this way, hope being the operative word. Kakashi walked into the living room later in the night to witness quite a sight. The girls had dominated a couch, and were all playing in each other's hair. Sakura and Kimiko were braiding Haku's hair and sticking in flowers while Haku was brushing Hinata's hair. Hinata had her hands occupied in Tsunami's hair as she pulled it into small twists. Naruto, Izumi, Sasuke and Inari were playing a game of poker on the low table, using chocolate to bet. Hitomi was for once not lazing around. Instead, he was looking over Tazuna's plans for the bridge. He was not giving points but was instead being informed as to why what was put where. Well, if this isn't a sight for sore eyes, Kakashi said, garnering everyone's. Kakashi-sensei. Hinata squealed. She made to get up but Haku harshly pulled her back down. I'm trying to brush your hair here, Hinata, Haku hissed. Gomen, Hinata apologized. Naruto gave Kakashi a brief nod. Yo, Kakashi-sensei. Finally awake, I see. Kakashi lazily plopped down next to Hitomi and Tazuna on the couch opposite to Hinata. I've been awake since yesterday. I saw you all leaving with Hitomi. It seems Hokage-sama sent backup. He glanced at Hitomi. So what have you been teaching my team? Hitomi shrugged. Nothing much really, just a bit of chakra control minus I had them tree walk with a leaf. The basics I see minus O and Zabuza's awake. Haku hopped to her feet but was pulled back down by Sakura and Kimiko. They gave her a glare that had her sheepishly going back to brushing Hinata's hair. Don't worry, Haku, Hinata said, you can see him later minus right, Naruto? Naruto didn't actually trust Haku enough to not try and break Zabuza out, or take the man's orders and do something stupid minus like attack Tazuna, but Hinata was giving him the look that said you had better agree. It was a look she had used quite often in the future. Of course, Naruto said, someone has to stay with her though minus no offense Haku, but you do whatever Zabuza says. None taken. I'll follow her, Hinata offered. No, I'll do it. I'm losing anyways, Sasuke said, watching as the pile of chocolates went to Izumi. The boy was quiet and had a great poker face, but could it really be called a poker face if that was how he looked regularly? Kimiko and Sakura finished up with Haku's hair. It looked elegant and pretty with the pink flowers stuck in the 2 braids. It went well with the white nightgown Hinata had lent her. She finished bushing Hinata's hair before leaving the combing to Sakura and Kimiko and heading upstairs with Sasuke. It looks nice. Haku stilled in her walking to give Sasuke a confused look. Sasuke stopped as well. He pointed at her hair. You hair, it looks nice. Haku blinked. Oh, she unconsciously reached up to brush back a lock. Thank you. I've never done this before, so I'm glad to hear it fits me so well. Sasuke nodded in reply, and they continued their walk to Zabuza's room. Upon entrance, they saw Zabuza doing one-handed push-ups on the floor. Zabuza-sama. Haku squealed. It's good to see you have recovered. Zabuza didn't so much as look up when he spoke. I thought I taught you better than that, Haku. Why are you fraternizing with enemy scum? Haku froze at the door, words seeming to leave her at Zabuza's harsh words. Sasuke pushed her further inside and closed the door. Are you going to let him speak about the girls that way? He asked. Haku seemed to snap out of her shock at Sasuke's words. They are not scum, Zabuza-sama, she said in a strong voice. Hinata is kind. Sakura is as well, though she gets a bit annoying at times, and Kimiko tells the funniest of jokes. Haku was aware she was babbling but couldn't seem to stop. Naruto is boisterous. Izumi is way more quiet than Sasuke, and Hitomi-sensei is a bit too lazy for my liking, she exhaled. So they are not scum, Zabuza-sama. Zabuza finally stopped exercising and rose to his feet. He sent Sasuke a killer glare. What have you bastards done to her? Sasuke shrugged as way of reply. Zabuza-sama, Gato has already paid us. He probably thinks we're dead. There is no need to continue this mission and hurt Tazuna-san. Don't tell me what to do. You do what I say, Haku. Zabuza hissed. Kill that filth beside you and then end the bridge builder. Haku looked down. Even with her chakra halted, it would still be a simple task to kill Sasuke. But they trusted her, and despite the fact that she owed Zabuza her life and she loved him dearly like a child would her father, she could not do as he asked. She fell to her knees, bowing low to the ground. Please, Zabuza-sama. Please do not ask of me such a thing. I cannot do it. I cannot. She looked up to see a surprised look on Zabuza's face and decided to use it to her advantage and speak before he could. I have friends for the first time ever. Look at my hair, Zabuza-sama. Kimiko and Sakura did it minus Sasuke said it looked good. It was fun, so please don't make me give this up. Zabuza found that he couldn't look away. This was the first Haku had ever begged him for something like this. She looked close to tears at the fact that she would have to hurt these friends of hers, and with a sigh Zabuza realized that he did not like to see her tears. Haku was like his daughter, and despite what he had told Kakashi, he knew a girl like Haku needed friends. He would never tell anyone this. He would do anything if it meant Haku would smile. Fine. Haku flew to her feet, hope shining in her eyes. Really? Zabuza frowned. Stop that girly performance of yours minus, and yes. The smile that spread across her face confirmed to Zabuza that he had done the right thing. The following morning saw Hitomi, Naruto and Izumi heading out with Tazuna. Training was over apparently. Kakashi was upstairs being a pest to Zabuza minus, probably teasing him about saying one thing and doing another. Kimiko and Sasuke were out getting some groceries from the town while Haku, Sakura and Hinata were helping Inari with his homework for school. Tsunami was busy cleaning the house. You should use purple, Hinata said, pointing at the single flower Inari had left to color. Sakura shook her head. Pink is a much better color, Inari. Haku looked at the two girls like they had grown another head. Blue is obviously the color he needs. Practically everything else is blue, which is why it needs purple, Hinata said to add variation. Haku crossed her arms. It's an ice prince and an ice castle, giving an ice princess an ice flower minus the flower should be blue. Hello here, too much blue is a pain to the eyes, pink rules. It's a prince, Haku pointed out, and he's giving it to a princess, Sakura retorted. Before the girls could go more in depth on what color the flower should be, a loud explosion shook the air. They were all immediately on their feet. It sounded close. They ran outside and saw that Kakashi had already jumped from a window outside. A large cloud of smoke was coming from a few miles away in the forest, and another explosion was followed by the sound of felling trees and more clouds of smoke. I'm going. I need you girls to protect the house, Kakashi said. You can't go by yourself, Sensei, Hinata said. Her Byakugan at ready. The chakra signature I'm getting is large. Despite your sleep, your chakra levels are still not where they should be. You need backup. I'm not taking any of you with me. Hinata tilted her head. Who said anything about us minus Haku? Can you convince Zabuza-san to assist? Is the opponent strong? Very. Then yes, I can, but you would need to break the barrier. Hinata smiled. Worry not. I know how to unlock it. What the fuck is going on? Kimiko shouted as she and Sasuke raced through the forest. They had been walking leisurely until the first explosion. Do you think Gato hired someone to attack the house? She asked, ducking under a limb. The explosion was a bit away from the direction of the house. Kakashi-sensei probably went to check it out. We need to hurry back to support the others. They might be minus. He grabbed Kimiko's sleeve and pulled her to a stop. Kimiko gave him a confused "You're the one who said we had to hurry. What's the holdup?" Sasuke gave her an icy stare. We're trapped. What the hell are you? She looked around closely and finally saw the network of metal thread winding around the surrounding trees. They were sharp to the point and would have hacked her to pieces at the speed she was going. To think I thought I could end this quickly and help me. You massacre the bridge builder's family, a feminine voice said. It seemed to come from all directions. Such foolish genins you are. I was giving you the easy way out minus oh well. A blue blur appeared before them, and before either of them could think, Kimiko found herself slammed into a tree, a metal boot pinning her to the trunk and slowly constricting her breathing, while Sasuke had his hand bent painfully to his back and a kunai to his neck. Where should I cut first? Tsunami, please take Inari and go inside, Hinata said softly. Her Byakugan eyes focused on the forest instead of those she had just spoken to. Tsunami nodded. Please be safe. She dragged Inari inside, kicking and screaming. No! I want to help. Hinata's too soft, they'll kill her. Hinata gave them a reassuring smile before closing the door and placing the barrier paper seal Naruto had given her on the door. A blue dome seemed to stretch from it and cover the house. Haku gave her a worried glance. How much chakra does that take, Hinata? Hinata gave her a weak smile. Quiet a bit. But I'll be okay, here they come. All three girls stepped closer, making a slightly disfigured triangle. Out of the forest stepped a little girl. Her hair was a dark green and looked as if a blind person had cut it, and her eyes were covered by a black cloth. She was dressed in a green kimono with a black obi. Holding the girl's hand was a long-limbed man. His body was hunched, as if weighed down by his arms. A black cloth covered his mouth, leaving his dark red eyes to scan the surroundings. He wore a black cloak to cover his body, but his long-sleeved red shirt and black pants were still slightly visible. Hinata scanned them both with her Byakugan. There was nothing odd about the little girl. The man, though, he was very odd. The bones in his arms and legs had been replaced by metal rods. If he wasn't hunched, he would be way taller, as the rods in his legs seemed to have been elongated as well. She quietly relayed this to her friends, and they all mentally told themselves to avoid being hit by the odd man. The little girl smiled. Hello, my name is Miyu, and he is my Yuko, my big brother. She reached up each sleeve and pulled out a tanto. We were told to kill you. Kiriko said, if I make this quick I'll get ice cream, so please die. Zabuza, are you still alive? Kakashi shouted over the roar of flames surrounding him. Of course, you idiot! Zabuza shouted back from wherever he was. Kakashi leaped into the air when a red-hot spiked chain shot at him through the flames. They wrapped around the limb he had just abandoned, and almost immediately the limb glowed a deep red before exploding. Standing in the middle of the flames was a red-haired lunatic? Well, that was the only way to describe him. Lunatic seemed to fit him quite well. He had a large grin on his face, revealing his razor-sharp teeth. The grin itself wouldn't have been so weird if not for the fact that his multiple pierced tongues seemed to permanently hang from his mouth. His pale eyes revealed that the man could not see, but despite that his eyes seemed to be trained directly on Kakashi when he spoke. Shichichi, the man laughed. Stay still so I can purify your soul with my flames. Naruto sighed when he felt the telltale signs of his clone exploding. He allowed the memories to enter. This particular clone was instructed to do just this if danger arose at the house. He frowned at what he saw. Hinata had erected the seal. Her chakra was now barely half of its maximum, and he could tell the enemy was not to be underestimated. So this is what happens when you mess with the timeline, he mumbled to himself. Izumi gave him a curious glance, wondering what exactly he was talking of. They were helping out with the building by carrying some of the wood. By taking Zabuza and Haku, he forced Gato to get alternative help, which from what he had seen, made this mission all that more dangerous, well, at least dangerous for everyone else. Hinata could be in trouble with her lack of chakra. He would have to finish things here quickly and go help her. An odd glint in the water caught his eyes, and without any prompting he dropped the piece of wood he had been carrying. He knew Hitomi already saw it, since the man had woken from his slumber and informed Tazuna to get the bridge cleared. Almost everyone was gone when the first wave of water arrows tore through the surface of the water. Hitomi flashed through some hand signs and slammed his hands onto the groundwater style water barrier. The water surrounding the bridge rose up in a semi-dome. Tazuna and the remaining workers reached safety. The second two cloaked men tore through the dome. The brunette-haired man immediately engaged Hitomi in a heated close-range combat, while the silver-haired man flashed to Izumi and Naruto. Izumi was fast enough to duck under the man's glistening sword, but not fast enough to dodge the kick aimed at his face. He skid across the bridge only to be stopped by Naruto, who instead of helping him to his feet, squeezed down on a pressure point in his neck that rendered him unconscious. That was a stupid thing to do, said the man. Naruto shrugged. That's for me to decide. He was slowing me down. So what's your name? I don't tell my name to the dead. Naruto grinned. Well, I'm Naruto. The man slashed at Naruto, but the blonde simply sidestepped the attack. I don't remember asking, the man said as he continued to make slashes at the blonde, all of which Naruto easily walked through. You can't possibly be a genin. Where are you from? The man hissed. Naruto caught the sword between a pair of kunai. You're going to die anyways, so I guess I can tell you. He channeled enough chakra to cut through the sword before kicking the surprised ninja skyward. Because who wouldn't be surprised when a genin showed such precise chakra control? Naruto leapt into the air, a very tiny ball of chakra, no larger than a pin, swirling in the middle of his palm. I'm from the future. The man didn't seem to see the small orb and crossed his arms to block what he thought was a weak punch. He actually thought his metal gauntlets would withstand the attack, giving him ample time to grab the blonde and end him with a slash to the neck. This did not happen. The small orb of chakra tore through the gauntlets easily, breaking apart bones and muscle before burning through 3 ribs and a lung when it expanded in the form of a beam. Naruto landed next to the bloodied body and promptly crushed the man's voice box with his foot. There was no use drawing Hitomi's attention. Speaking of Hitomi, he didn't seem to be having that much trouble with the purple-eyed brunette. He glanced at the still alive, bleeding and convulsing body before biting his thumb. He flashed through a series of hand signs and slammed his palm into the ground. Kuchios no Jutsu. A poof of smoke later revealed a black two-tailed fox with gold gauntlets and a white patch of fur on its forehead. To what do I owe the pleasure, Naruto-sama? The fox asked. Get rid of this body. I don't care how, just make sure it's gone. The fox gave a brief nod before clamping its jaw onto the now dead ninja's leg and flashing away. Naruto watched Hitomi's fight for a few more seconds before leaving. Hinata was in trouble. Kami helped those idiots if they hurt her. Kimiko looked up at the woman. She looked in her 20s and was dressed in a simple white spaghetti strap dress that oddly enough went well with her thick black metal boots and metal gloves. Her hair was a light blue that fell to her shoulders in waves. Wait a minute, the woman said. I can't just go killing you off without introducing myself. Such bad manners I seem to have. I am AIM. Kimiko grinned up at her, which threw AIM for a loop. Why would this girl on the verge of death be smiling at her with such arrogance and confidence? Maybe she was sick in the head? Or maybe, so you smile in the face of death, AIM said with a smile. Wonderful, I hate those who fear death. I smile because I don't plan on dying, Kimiko said rather fluently, surprising AIM. Having a metal boot pressed to her throat should at least inhibit speech. Earth release, mud puppets. Kimiko and Sasuke's features melted away to reveal large piles of dripping mud which no longer had a human form. AIM immediately tried to jump away but found that her leg was stuck in the mud, as was her hand that had been holding Sasuke. The mud slowly began to encase her, but she quickly dispelled chakra from her body, which was the only thing keeping her alive currently in the dark cocoon. Damn, she cursed. I let my guard down. A wave of fury lashed through her. She was going to kill that girl painfully. She channeled her chakra through the mud, causing it to harden, and with a roar of fury she smashed her way out. Her eyes immediately zoned in on Kimiko. The girl was propped up against a tree and breathing heavily. That jutsu had been mid-level and had taken a lot out of her. White-hot rage consumed AIM when she realized this pathetic excuse for a ninja had gotten the jump on her. You are so dead, little one, she hissed, removing 2 reels of metal thread from her pouch and wrapping them separately around each glove. She flashed through some seals. Water release. Deadly blades water vapor collected along the threads, forming elongated spikes. Horror ran across Kimiko's face. Those spikes looked very painful, and she doubted she would be able to dodge them. As AIM charged, Kimiko literally saw her life flash before her very eyes. Mentally she promised to haunt Sasuke for leaving her to die. The moment AIM swung her arm back, ready to slash through flesh, a blur grabbed Kimiko and disappeared. What? AIM whispered in confusion, looking around for her target before her eyes focused on the tree Kimiko had before been propped up on. It was lathered in exploding seals that were about a second from blowing up. Fuck me. Boom! Kimiko coughed as she appeared through the dust and debris. Sasuke by her side. Why did you take so long? She hissed in fury. Our plan was specific. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Our plan was improvising. I sensed the danger, and you sent along mud puppets as a precaution. After that you were too tired to move, and I sent you as a diversion to draw AIM's attention away from me so that I could find an opening. You never mentioned not attacking. Why didn't you tell me there were explosives on that tree? Sasuke shrugged. I said I would find an opening. I never said I would attack. Lots of trees in the forest have explosives. They're layered in a mild gen just that falls before they explode. The dope, and I set them up as a defensive mechanism. I just made them go off. Kimiko grabbed him by the collar and started to shake him senseless. What if you had been too slow and I was blown to bits? Sasuke shrugged off her hold with a frown, not at all liking her handling of his person. I'm faster than you think. Kimiko glared before hopping into a tree. Let's go. The others are in trouble. There's not much you can do in your state, Sasuke said. Your chakra is low. You won't be able to move fast enough. Just stay here, and I'll go. Kimiko looked ready to protest but stopped when a wave of nausea consumed her. Fine. Sasuke nodded and disappeared.